Chapter 2261. Lin Feng was her savior, but when she saw Lin Feng's handsome face, Xue Qianwu only had one thought in her mind. That was to send this bastard flying into outer space with a single punch. The gratitude she had for Lin Feng for saving her was all thrown out the window because of Lin Feng's words. Look, that kid is really a sentimental person. He actually ran into the army to save that woman called Xue Qianwu. Song Wuzong pointed at Lin Feng's direction with a mocking and disdainful expression on his face. In his opinion, if one wanted to achieve great success on the path of cultivation, one should have no distractions. Women were an important factor that hindered one's cultivation. Lin Feng's actions had already fallen to the bottom in Song Wuzong's eyes. The other four demons glanced at Lin Feng with a cold glint in their eyes. They wanted to kill Lin Feng. Now that they saw Lin Feng, they naturally wanted to get rid of Lin Feng immediately. Shoot that brat to death, Zhang Wuxian ordered. The densely packed cultivator army took out their specially made magic bows and magic arrows. Swoosh, 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 a dense barrage of arrows shot out. They were even denser than rain. Those arrows were all enchanted with arrays and were extremely powerful. Xue Qianwu's face turned as white as paper when she saw those arrows. "We're dead," she said with a trembling voice. If she could live, Xue Qianwu didn't want to die. Although this woman was ambitious, she also cherished her life. She hadn't lived enough yet. "What are you afraid of?" Lin Feng said indifferently. He took out the purple gold heavenly ball, a defensive magic treasure. The purple gold heavenly ball was activated. Suddenly, a large amount of divine light gushed out and enveloped him and Xue Qianwu. Lin Feng grabbed Xue Qianwu's hand and rushed into the distance. A large number of arrows were blocked by the defensive divine light released by the purple gold heavenly sphere. Having a top-notch defensive magic treasure could save one's life in many cases. Just like now, the surrounding cultivators, on the other hand, were not as lucky. When the dense rain of arrows fell, it caused an indiscriminate attack. It not only attacked Lin Feng and Xue Qianwu, but also the cultivator army that wanted to surround Lin Feng and Xue Qianwu. Lin Feng and Xue Qianwu were protected by the purplish gold heavenly sphere. Thus, they were not harmed. However, the surrounding cultivators did not have such a powerful defensive magic treasure. Puff, puff, puff. Following a series of tearing sounds and miserable screams, a large number of cultivators were killed by the arrows fired by their own side. These people probably couldn't believe that they had died just like that. They were really unwilling. But even if he was unwilling, what could he do? War was merciless. On the other hand, the 5 devils of Sangming Mountain were even more ruthless. They simply didn't care about the life and death of the cultivator army. If they cared about their life and death, they wouldn't give the order to fire the arrows. Lin Feng and Xue Qianwu rushed out of the encirclement. Song Wuzong scolded, "That brat really has a lot of tricks up his sleeve. I will personally kill him." Song Wushuan said, "That brat is not worth mentioning. The most important thing now is to release the Devil Pagoda. Everything else is secondary." Song Wuzong, who originally wanted to go to Lin Feng, could only nod his head. Among the 5 devils of Sangming Mountain, Song Wushuan was the boss. He was only ranked 5th. Naturally, he had to listen to the boss. 5,000 Snow Clan cultivators were killed. Xue Qianwu's face was pale as she watched this scene from afar. Her hands were tightly clenched together. If not for me, they wouldn't have died. Xue Qianwu gritted her teeth and said, Lin Feng said indifferently, "They deserve to die. Traitors shouldn't have a good ending." "You cold-blooded animal." Xue Qianwu stared fiercely at Lin Feng. "Am I wrong?" Lin Feng said indifferently, "Traitors are the most despicable, especially when they betrayed their own clansmen. That's even more despicable. I will kill you first." Xue Qianwu slapped her palm towards Lin Feng. Lin Feng's expression was indifferent. He directly suppressed Xue Qianwu and threw her into the 4 vicious cauldrons to accompany Su Miaoqing. Blood cast! Songming Mountain's 5 devils shouted. The Snow Clan cultivators' corpses were thrown above the Devil Pagoda. Bang, bang, bang. The corpses exploded. They turned into blood rain. It descended. The blood rain poured onto the Devil Pagoda, onto the 9 chains, and onto the Emperor runes. The Devil Pagoda, the 9 chains that locked the Devil Pagoda, and the 9 thick Emperor runes on the 9 chains. They were all absorbing the blood rain. Lin Feng looked at this scene indifferently. Just like what he said to Xue Qianwu, he hated traitors, especially traitors who betrayed their own clansmen. This made Lin Feng feel even more disgusted and hateful. Lin Feng would not sympathize with them, no matter how miserable their fate was. Boom, 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 as the Devil Pagoda absorbed the blood of the Snow Clan cultivators. An even more terrifying energy surged out from the Devil Pagoda. That energy could destroy the heavens and earth. It was shocking. It was moving. Lin Feng took a deep breath. It seemed that the curse was about to come true, using the blood of the Snow Clan cultivators to cast the Devil Pagoda. At that time, the Devil Pagoda would be born. It was obvious that the Devil Pagoda was about to be born. Crack, crack. Meanwhile, the 9 thick chains that bound the demonic pagoda were breaking apart. Even the 9 Emperor runes on the chain were cracking nonstop. The Devil Pagoda soared into the sky. It wanted to break the chains and the Emperor runes. However, after several attempts, it ended in failure. The chains and the Emperor runes, they could not be broken so easily. Not enough. Not enough. Far from enough. I want blood, more blood. If there is no blood of the Snow Clan, then use the blood of ordinary people to cast the Devil Pagoda. The Devil Pagoda's spirit roared. However, this time, the 5 devils did not follow the pagoda's instructions. What are you lowly servants waiting for? Why aren't you following my orders? The Devil Pagoda's spirit looked coldly at the 5 devils. Lin Feng's heart skipped a beat. Why did the Devil Pagoda call the 5 devils slaves? This made him somewhat puzzled. The Demon Lord seemed to know what Lin Feng was thinking. He said, "The Demon Lord is the Lord of all demons, so all demons are slaves in front of the Demon Lord. As the spirit of the Demon Lord's natal treasure, it is not strange for the pagoda's spirit to see other demons as slaves." Lin Feng said, "But this fellow forgot that the Demon Lord is dead." Keek keek. At that moment, a gloomy voice resounded between heaven and earth. Crack, crack. Then the void cracked. The other demonic pagoda flew out. Chapter 2262. Another Devil Tower. Lin Feng stared at the flying Devil Tower in shock. Wait, these 2 Devil Towers were originally one. Is the second Devil Tower the part that escaped back then? Lin Feng quickly understood what was going on. Back then, the Devil Tower had been cut in 2. One had been suppressed. The other had escaped. Now, the 2 Devil Towers were reunited. Milord! When the second Devil Pagoda appeared, the 5 devils of Songming Mountain bowed towards it. No need for formalities. The second Devil Tower said, "Between heaven and earth, not a sound could be heard." Everyone's gaze turned towards the 2 demonic pagodas. These 2 Devil Towers, they were mysterious and unfathomable. They were incomparably powerful. Everyone was silently waiting for the situation to develop. Thus, they all felt that these 2 Devil Towers were not easy to deal with. A tower spirit has actually appeared. The first Devil Tower's spirit said coldly. The second Devil Tower also manifested a Devil Tower's spirit. What surprised Lin Feng was that the second Devil Tower's spirit was exactly the same as the first Devil Tower's spirit. Even the form of the Devil Tower's spirit is an imitation of mine. It seems that your accomplishments are destined to be limited. The first Devil Tower's spirit said. The second Devil Tower's spirit said sinisterly, "This is because I want to devour you and let the two Devil Towers fuse into one. That way, the Devil Towers will be restored to their former appearance." You want to devour me with just your strength? How laughable. What do you think you are? The first Devil Tower's spirit said disdainfully, not showing any respect to the second Devil Tower's spirit. This is no longer your era. You're still trapped, yet you still dare to be so arrogant? You're simply courting death. The second Devil Tower's spirit sneered. The spirit of the first demonic pagoda said, "If it's not my era, could it be the era of an imposter like you? Remember this. Imposters will always be imposters. They can never replace the real thing." The spirit of the second Devil Pagoda mocked. "Do you know why the 5 devils of Azure Underworld Mountain would rather help me than you? It's because you're too self-righteous. Now that the Devil Lord is dead, you're no longer the high and mighty spirit of the Devil Pagoda that followed by the Devil Lord's side. You're now just a lowly prisoner, yet you're still flaunting your prowess. Who are you showing off to? You don't even have the slightest bit of self-awareness. You're destined to be abandoned by everyone. They're just a bunch of lowly slaves. Why would I care about them?" The spirit of the first demonic tower sneered. The expressions of the 5 devils of Sangming Mountain were extremely ugly. The spirit of the first demonic pagoda was clearly cursing the 5 of them as lowly slaves. Lin Feng muttered in his heart. The spirit of the first Devil Pagoda was truly arrogant, as expected of an existence that followed the Devil Lord. The Devil Master had been dead for who knew how many years. This guy's arrogance had yet to be toned down. The spirit of the first demonic tower continued. "I am a god that was born after the Devil Lord gathered Xian Pin Qi and fused it with the great age, heavenly Tao, origin, immortal Qi. You, on the other hand, are merely an artifact spirit born from a broken demonic tower. In front of me, you're just a lowly existence. If you submit to me now, I can give you a chance to attach yourself to another treasure. Otherwise, you'll die without a proper burial." The spirit of the second demonic tower sneered. "Aren't you being too self-righteous? So what if you're a god?" "God sounds nice, but isn't it still the spirit of a demonic tower? How much higher level can you be compared to me?" Artifact spirits and gods were essentially the same. The only difference was that gods were stronger and of a higher level. Artifact spirits were more common, while gods were rarer. Of course, artifact spirits could evolve. When artifact spirits continued to evolve, they would have the chance to evolve into a higher level god. However, the path of evolution for artifact spirits was much more difficult. A lowly artifact spirit naturally can't compare to a noble god. It's like comparing a beggar to an emperor. You're just asking for humiliation. The spirit of the first demonic tower sneered. It was as arrogant as ever, looking down on the spirit of the second demonic tower. Lin Feng muttered in his heart. The spirit of the first demonic tower was really arrogant. However, this fellow was still trapped, yet it was already so arrogant. Would it die a horrible death? "I can't be bothered to talk so much nonsense with you. Today is the day you die." The spirit of the second demonic tower sneered. Boom. Immediately after, the spirit of the second demonic tower attacked. A palm strike struck the spirit of the first demonic tower. The spirit of the first demonic tower wasn't to be outdone. It attacked as well. It attacked the spirit of the second demonic tower. Bang! Both sides collided. The spirit of the first demonic tower was actually pushed back by the spirit of the second demonic tower. The spirit of the first demonic tower's expression changed abruptly, as if it couldn't believe that it had been pushed back. The spirit of the second demonic tower said, "What? Do you find it strange? You've been trapped for so many years, so it's only natural that your strength has weakened. You are no longer my match. Once I devour you, I will evolve into a new god, and you will become a thing of the past. When the demonic towers become one, who can contend against me?" The spirit of the second demonic tower was about to attack again. However, the spirit of the first demonic tower hurriedly returned to the tower. "What's going on? Not fighting because of fear. You want to defend to the death." Lin Feng couldn't help but frown slightly. The current situation was indeed very unfavorable for the spirit of the first demonic tower. It had been trapped for so many years. It still hadn't escaped. Moreover, it had no helpers. It wasn't like the spirit of the second demonic tower, which had experts like the 5 demons of Ashen Underworld Mountain helping it. No matter how one looked at it, the spirit of the first demonic tower would lose this battle. Thus, the spirit of the first demonic tower had chosen to avoid the battle and take a defensive stance. In fact, this was the most correct method. However, if it just focused on defense, it didn't seem like a wise choice. It's useless. Even if you take a defensive stance, you won't be able to prevent the fate of being devoured. The spirit of the second demonic tower sneered. Then he began to chant an incantation. As he chanted the incantation, the body of the first demonic tower actually burned fiercely. This is a sacrificial technique. He couldn't help but be shocked. He had cultivated the great sacrificial technique. Thus, he more or less had some understanding of sacrificial techniques. The demon lord said, "He's using the blood of the Snow Clan cultivators that the demonic tower just absorbed as a sacrifice. He probably wants to use the sacrificial method to defeat the spirit of the first demonic tower." What a good plan! What a good plan! The demonic tower was bathed in blood, but it didn't let the spirit of the first demonic tower escape. The spirit of the first demonic tower was happy for nothing. Now, the blood it absorbed is going to become a sacrifice for the sacrificial technique, becoming something that will take its life. Lin Feng couldn't help but exclaim. He was very impressed by the spirit of the second demonic tower's scheme. The spirit of the first demonic tower had obviously been tricked by the spirit of the second demonic tower. This time, it was likely that it would be doomed eternally. Chapter 2263. Lin Feng did not participate in the battle between the two towers. He only watched from afar. The 2 old men from the Snow Clan did not participate in the battle either. Similarly, they stood in the distance and watched quietly. The 2 of them knew that they were powerless to reverse the situation, so they did not interfere. "You want to sacrifice me? Don't even think about it." The first tower's spirit's furious voice rang out. Following that, numerous runes flickered. The shocking runes emitted violent fluctuations, shaking the void and obliterating the power of sacrifice. It's useless. No matter how you struggle, you can't escape the fate of being sacrificed. The second tower's spirit said coldly. The 5 devils of Sangming Mountain flew out and helped the second tower's spirit deal with the first tower's spirit. That's an immortal Grand Dao. It can disintegrate all resistance. Suddenly, low voices rang out one after another. The 5 devils of Sangming Mountain had used the Great Disintegration Art, one of the 3,000 Grand Daos. The 3,000 Grand Daos were rather strange. It had no offensive power. However, it could disintegrate all sorts of willpower. Originally, the 5 devils of Sangming Mountain were filled with the will to resist, but now they were slowly being disintegrated by the great disintegration art. No, I can't accept this. The first tower's spirit roared unwillingly. He wanted to break the great disintegration art, but after many attempts, he failed every time. The 5 of us joined forces to use the great disintegration art. It's still not enough to disintegrate your willpower. There's no need to resist. Any resistance is useless before us. You're destined to become a thing of the past. You'll die here. The 5 devils of Sangming Mountain said coldly. Now, they had joined forces. They were very confident in their own abilities. The first tower's spirit continued to struggle. He was unwilling to die, just like that. However, his struggles and resistance seemed to be futile. Why is it like this? The first tower's spirit roared unwillingly. His struggles grew weaker and weaker. His resistance grew weaker and weaker. Is the first tower's spirit really going to be killed? Lin Feng could not help but frown when he saw this from afar. He felt that something was amiss, but he could not pinpoint what was wrong. The spirit of the first demonic tower might have been very powerful in the past, but it was no longer its era. A new Devil Tower spirit was born. Furthermore, the new Devil Tower spirit had powerful existences, like the 5 devils of the Azure Underworld Mountain, to help it refine the first Devil Tower spirit. It seemed like it was only a matter of time. No matter how one looked at it, the fate of the first demonic tower's spirit had already been decided and could not be changed. Unless someone helped the spirit of the first Devil Pagoda deal with the spirit of the second Devil Pagoda and the 5 devils of Sangming Mountain. However, the spirit of the second Devil Tower and the 5 devils of Azure Underworld Mountain were so powerful. Who would help the spirit of the first Devil Tower? Moreover, whether it was the spirit of the first or second Devil Tower, neither of them were good people. Since none of them were good people, who would help them? In this place, only Lin Feng and the 2 old men could fight. Obviously, it didn't matter if it was Lin Feng or the 2 old men. He had no intention of making a move. The reason why Lin Feng didn't leave was because he wanted to see if there would be a situation where the sandpiper and the clam fought and the fishermen reaped the benefits. If such a situation really happened, it would be for the best. If it didn't appear, it wouldn't be too late to leave. Lin Feng believed in his ability. It wouldn't be difficult for him to leave this place. I curse all of you to die a horrible death. I curse all of you to have a fate 10 times more miserable than mine. I curse all of you to fall into the 18 layers of hell, never to be reincarnated. I curse all of you. The spirit of the first Devil Tower seemed to know that its fate was irreversible, so it began to curse. It kept on cursing the spirit of the second Devil Tower and the 5 devils of Azure Underworld Mountain. The spirit of the second demonic tower said sinisterly, "The curse of a dying man like you is of no use to us. After you die, we will become even stronger and achieve hegemony. But obviously, you won't live to see that day because you will turn into dust and disappear from this world. Oh, great Tao of sacrifice, please send down your supreme power. I will inherit the great will of the Tao of sacrifice and destroy all lowly beings who dare to blaspheme the great Tao of sacrifice." The spirit of the second Devil Tower howled. Rumble! A long river formed from the power of sacrifice was formed. It flowed in the void. The long river of sacrifice surged toward the first Devil Tower. Such a majestic sacrificial power was simply too powerful and terrifying. The spirit of the first Devil Tower was already having a hard time resisting the joint attack of the spirit of the second Devil Tower and the 5 devils of Azure Underworld Mountain. Now, The spirit of the second Devil Tower was displaying its might. The spirit of the first Devil Tower found it hard to resist. No, no, no. I can't accept this. The spirit of the first Devil Tower roared in fear, full of unwillingness. However, no matter how much it roared, the outcome was already decided. It was impossible to change it. The spirit of the first Devil Tower's resistance grew weaker and weaker. Bang! Finally, the spirit of the first Devil Tower exploded, turning into a ball of origin energy. Just as the spirit of the second Devil Tower was about to devour the origin energy of the first Devil Tower's spirit, unexpectedly, the spirit of the first Devil Tower, which had turned into an energy source, began to burn fiercely. Damn it! Damn it! You would rather destroy your own origin energy than leave it to me. The spirit of the second Devil Tower couldn't help but roar in anger. In just a few breaths of time, the energy source of the first demonic tower's spirit was annihilated. It died just like that. Lin Feng couldn't help but frown. The spirit of the first Devil Tower had followed the Devil Lord back then, and was considered a famous figure. It had schemed for so long. It had thought that it would be able to escape. It had never imagined that it would be schemed against by the spirit of the second Devil Tower and end up dead. If I die, then so be it. Although I didn't get your origin energy, I got the tower body. Now, the two towers will merge into one. Ha ha ha. The spirit of the second Devil Tower laughed heartily. Clang, 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 clang. Next, the spirit of the second Devil Tower made its move. The tower body it controlled crashed into the 9 chains that bound the first Devil Tower. The sound of violent collisions rang out one after another. The 9 chains shattered completely. The 9 Emperor runes on the 9 chains were also destroyed. 2 towers merged into one. The spirit of the second Devil Tower roared in excitement. However, at this moment, inside the first Devil Tower, a cold voice rang out. Nirvana Rebirth, Undying and Indestructible. Chapter 2264. When this voice rang out, everyone present was stunned. Wasn't this the voice of the first tower's spirit? Hadn't this fellow been reduced to ashes? Why was he resurrected? Buzz. Waves of terrifying fluctuations spread out from the spirit of the first Devil Tower. Immediately after, powerful waves of energy blasted toward the second tower and the 5 demons of Ashen Mountain. Bang! Sounds of violent collisions rang out one after another. The second tower and the 5 demons of Ashen Mountain were sent flying. The second tower's body was sturdy, so it didn't suffer too much damage. However, the 5 demons of Ashen Mountain were made of flesh and blood. Although they were powerful, they couldn't withstand the first tower's attacks. Wah! The 5 demons of Ashen Mountain spat out mouthfuls of blood, their faces as pale as paper. Isn't this too dramatic? Lin Feng watched this scene with his mouth agape. He originally thought that the first tower's spirit had died. He didn't expect that it wasn't the second tower's spirit that had schemed against the first tower's spirit. Instead, the first tower's spirit had schemed against the second tower's spirit. He had faked his death to confuse the second tower's spirit. When the second tower's spirit destroyed the first tower's chains and Emperor runes, it had immediately undergone Nirvanic rebirth and launched a counterattack. What a good plan. The older the ginger, the spicier it was. This saying was true. No matter what, the first tower's spirit had followed the demon lord for such a long time. It had probably seen too many storms. What kind of schemes hadn't it seen before? Scheming against others? It was an extremely simple matter. The second tower's spirit thought that its plan was flawless, but it had been schemed against by the first tower's spirit. From this, one could see how powerful the first tower's spirit was. There was nothing it couldn't calculate, attack together, and destroy it. The second tower's spirit roared in exasperation. This was because the second tower's spirit was essentially an artifact spirit. The first tower's spirit was a god that surpassed artifact spirits. The second tower's spirit had always felt inferior in front of the first tower's spirit. This was a sense of inferiority brought about by the difference in status. Originally, the spirit of the second Devil Tower thought that it had successfully plotted against the spirit of the first Devil Tower, and the spirit of the first Devil Tower had also fallen. Only then did his sense of inferiority lessen. However, only now did he realize that he wasn't the one who had schemed against the spirit of the first Devil Tower. Instead, it was the spirit of the first Devil Tower that had plotted against him. In terms of life, it couldn't compare to the spirit of the first Demon Tower. In terms of strategy, he couldn't compare to the spirit of the first Devil Tower. This was a heavy blow to the spirit of the second Demonic Tower. This blow was hard for the spirit of the second Demonic Tower to accept, so much so that it became a little crazy. Boom! A great battle instantly broke out. The spirit of the second Devil Tower joined forces with the 5 devils of Azure Underworld Mountain to launch a frenzied assault on the spirit of the first Devil Tower. How can a lowly artifact spirit control the demonic pagoda? How can it display the might of the demonic pagoda? Today, I'll let you know just what kind of power the Fiend Pagoda has. The cold voice of the spirit of the first Devil Tower suddenly rang out. Immediately after, inside the first Devil Tower, waves of terrifying energy surged out. Buzz. Terrifying ripples swept out from the first Devil Tower. Those ripples seemed to be the ripples of death. They could cause indiscriminate attacks, and any cultivator who was enveloped by them would only have a path of death. Run, run, run. After sensing those terrifying ripples, Lin Feng's expression changed greatly, and he hurriedly rushed into the distance. The spirit of the first Devil Tower was simply too terrifying. After escaping, no one could suppress this fellow anymore. This fellow's combat strength was so strong that it made one's heart tremble. Fortunately, Lin Feng was already quite far away from the spirit of the first Devil Tower. Coupled with his fast speed, he quickly escaped more than 10 miles away. Therefore, he wasn't affected by the ripples. However, the densely packed cultivator army was in trouble. Bang, bang, bang. The sound of bodies exploding could be heard one after another. The densely packed cultivator army's bodies exploded one after another. None of the cultivator army, who was enveloped by the ripples, were spared. Over 1 million cultivator army's bodies exploded, and they died on the spot. The scene before them was like the end of the world. When the cultivator army outside saw this scene, they were so frightened that they quickly retreated, not daring to get close to the center of the battle. These cultivator army were incomparably fortunate. Fortunately, they didn't get close to the battle. Otherwise, they might have received the same order as those who died, and their souls would have already returned to the 9 heavens. Even the spirit of the second Devil Tower and the 5 devils of Sangming Mountain were injured. The spirit of the second Devil Tower had its body pierced, and its demonic aura was greatly reduced. As for the 5 devils of Sangming Mountain, their origin was directly injured. This caused the 5 devils of Sangming Mountain to have extremely ugly expressions. Once any cultivator's origin was injured, it wasn't a small matter. It was enough to take their lives. Go, the spirit of the second Devil Tower shouted. It tore through the void and swept up the 5 devils of Sangming Mountain and the remaining 3 million cultivator army. Then it quickly left. Where do you think you're going? The spirit of the first Devil Tower sneered. Then it chased after it. Too savage. This spirit of the first Devil Tower is simply too savage. Lin Feng couldn't help but exclaim. He didn't know how strong the spirit of the first Devil Tower was. It was so strong that it made people despair. Lin Feng and the two old men guarding the tower gathered together. At this moment, a dense meteor shower fell from the distant sky. This was a meteor shower, and it was extremely rare. However, the meteor shower before them was somewhat different from ordinary meteor showers. Looking from afar, one could see that the meteor shower had a faint blood-red glow. When the meteor shower fell, the blood-red glow seemed to want to devour the earth. The green-robed old man said, "The stars fall from the sky. The blood-red glow descends upon the world. The 5 decays of heaven and man appear, and monsters and demons appear." Lin Feng's heart skipped a beat. He heard the words 5 decays of heaven and man from the old man's poem. This era had already gone through 2,999 great eras, and the current era was the 3,000th great era. Based on time, it was indeed time for the 5 decays of heaven and man to appear. This era had also come to an end. Countless races and living beings would disappear with the end of this era. Only a very, very small number of people could survive. "Senior, what do you mean by this?" Lin Feng asked. "This is a poem on the heaven-shaking stone steel. This poem reveals the signs of the 5 signs of Deva's decay. When the 5 signs of Deva's decay appears, it is also the time when the myriad worlds are at their most chaotic. At this time, all kinds of characters will appear, including immortals, demons, gods, devils, Buddhas, ghosts, and so on. Even those terrifying existences that have been suppressed will break out of their suppression and come into being, just like how the spirit of the first Devil Pagoda broke out of its suppression and came into being. The 5 signs of Deva's decay, which will destroy the myriad worlds, should officially appear now." Chapter 2265. Lin Feng's expression became solemn. The 5 decay of the celestial being was too terrifying. The myriad worlds were destroyed, the old era was destroyed, and the new era began. Death and despair were everywhere. Such a scene, it made people despair. If one wanted to kill someone, they would first go crazy. Perhaps it was because the day of the apocalypse was getting closer and closer. That was why all kinds of monsters and monsters would appear one after another. In the last period of time, it was crazy. They might be able to become the lucky ones and survive until the next era began. If they could survive until the next era began, that would be amazing. They would simply become a supreme existence. Just like the living beings in the black fog, they were existences that did not die after the previous era was destroyed. For a very long period of time after the beginning of this era, the living beings in the black fog were all high and mighty existences. Even now, the living beings in the black fog were also existences that were almost impossible to contend with. The 5 decay of the celestial being has appeared. It seems that the myriad worlds are about to enter a period of turmoil. Lin Feng could not help but sigh. He would not complain about anything. He was born in this era. This was his fate. Lin Feng had always been a person who was unwilling to be controlled by fate. Therefore, he would work hard to seek a chance of survival, even if the real apocalypse came. As long as he grasped enough power, he could also protect his family, loved ones, and avoid the 5 decay of the celestial being. Then, he would live until the next era began. Of course, Lin Feng also knew that this was not an easy task. But so what if it was not easy? As long as he worked hard, even if he failed in the end, he would have no regrets. It seems that the great era of cultivation is about to begin again. The gray-robed elder said, "Since the end of the ancient era, the world has changed greatly. The laws of the world have become more and more unsuitable for cultivation. For such a long time, there hasn't even been a new great emperor. But now, the 5 decay of the celestial being has appeared. This is the last period of cultivation before the apocalypse. Before death, it is often the craziest, so the golden age of cultivation will definitely come. However, in this golden age of cultivation, perhaps only a very small number of people can grasp that trace of luck and become the lucky ones of this era. Yes, cultivators go against the heavens. We are born in this era. If we want to live, we can only madly seize luck. I hope that we won't die when the apocalypse arrives and the era collapses. Lin Feng could not help but sigh. The three were very emotional. The appearance of the 5 decay of the celestial being made them feel a sense of urgency. If they could survive. No one wanted to die. Even though the 2 old men guarding the pagoda had lived for a very long time, they did not want to die. The spirits of the 1st and 2nd demon towers had already left, and the crisis of the Snow Clan had been resolved. Lin Feng contacted the poison ancestor and the others who had escaped. Many ships flew back to him. Everyone returned to Snow City again. The people of the Snow Clan, who had returned to their ancestral land, quickly received the news. Xue Zihua left some of the talented members of the Snow Clan in the ancestral grounds to cultivate, then led the rest back to Snow City. The spirits of the 1st and 2nd Devil Towers were engaged in a battle to the death. The 2nd Great Emperor of He sacrificed more than 3 million cultivators. Through the sacrifice, the 2nd Great Emperor of, with the help of the 5 devils of Sungming Mountain, the 2nd Great Emperor of. However, in the process of the battle, the 2nd Great Emperor of Sungming Mountain and the 5 devils of Sungming Mountain were severely injured. As a result, both sides ended up with a lose-lose situation. In the end, they all left and disappeared, each looking for a place to heal. This caused quite a stir in the Arctic tundra. Many cultivators in the Arctic tundra watched the battle from afar and saw this unprecedented battle. The Devil Tower, it's actually the legendary Devil Tower, the Devil Lord of the Ancients. Is he the son of the Lord of Gods? I think he's called the Sky-Devouring Demon Master. Back then, he was also a peerless figure. Together with his father, he led an army of 10,000 worlds and launched a peerless battle against unknown and terrifying creatures. It's said that if they hadn't stopped those terrifying creatures, the 10,000 worlds would have been destroyed long ago. That seems to be the case according to the rumors. However, it was too long ago. There are only a few clues about what happened back then. As for what happened in that battle, it has become a mystery now. But the Sky-Devouring Devil Lord is definitely the strongest Devil Lord of this era. Yes, but later on, I heard that the Sky-Devouring Devil Lord's descendant was called the Sky-Devouring Devil Emperor. He controlled the Devil Tower for a short time, but it's said that the Sky-Devouring Devil Emperor suffered a backlash from the Devil Tower. Otherwise, he could have become the new Devil Lord. However, he died prematurely because of that injury. Now that the demonic pagoda has been split into 2 and is heavily damaged, it is time to suppress the demonic pagoda and refine it. This is a supreme treasure refined by the demonic lord. Once it is under our control, we can even dominate the 9 states. Let's go and find the Devil Tower. After hearing about the Devil Tower, many cultivators from the major factions began to search for the Devil Tower. At this time, Xue Zihua and the others had already returned to Snow City. The Snow Clan launched an attack on the Ice Clan. The current strength of the Ice race was extremely weak. In the previous battle, most of the Ice race's cultivators and the cultivator army they recruited had been sacrificed by the spirit of the 2nd Devil Tower. With the Ice Clan weakened, it was the perfect time for the Snow Clan to deal with them. The 2 clans had a deep grudge against each other. The battle ended with the Ice Clan's defeat. The Ice Clan became the Snow Clan's slaves. The Arctic tundra fell into the Snow Clan's territory. At the celebration banquet, everyone toasted each other. From time to time, the higher-ups of the Snow Clan would come to propose a toast to Lin Feng. They thanked Lin Feng for helping the Snow Clan. If Lin Feng hadn't helped, many people would have thought that the Snow Clan would have been destroyed. This time, the Snow Clan would have been destroyed. Lin Feng didn't refuse anyone. He drank until he was dead drunk. He didn't even know who carried him back. When he woke up the next day, he still had a headache. He stayed in Snow City for a few days. Lin Feng planned to go to the Netherworld Sea. When he subdued the Snake Empress, he had her help him recruit soldiers in the Netherworld Sea. He didn't know how the Snake Empress was doing. The Arctic tundra was only a month's journey from the Netherworld Sea. It wasn't very far, so Lin Feng could go and see how the Snake Empress was doing. After leaving the Snow Clan, Lin Feng, Du Zhu, and the heretical Holiness Saint flew towards the Netherworld Sea. Soon, they left the Arctic tundra and entered the boundless Netherworld Sea. On this day, the originally clear skies of the sea were suddenly covered with dark clouds and thunder rumbled. On the sea, huge waves rose to the sky. No one knew what happened. Chapter 2266. It's not good to continue traveling in this weather. Let's find an island to take shelter. Lin Feng ordered his deity Realm Clone. The deity Realm Clone immediately changed direction and looked for an island where they could rest. Could it be that some terrifying existence is about to come into being? Lin Feng couldn't help but wonder. Soon, they stopped on a huge island. Lin Feng put the Xianyuan away and found a cave with Du Zhu and the heretic diviner saint to take shelter from the rain. The heavy rain obscured their line of sight, and visibility became extremely low. Lightning dragons and snakes swam about in the sky, emanating a monstrous divine might. It seems like a lightning tribulation. Du Zhu said. Lin Feng nodded and said, but if it's a lightning tribulation, it's really too powerful. I wonder what kind of expert is undergoing the tribulation. The heretic diviner saint said, there are many hidden experts in the overseas world. Many of them have heaven-defying cultivation bases, but no one knows about them. The heretic diviner saint's words coincided with Lin Feng's thoughts. The situation in the overseas world was indeed as the heretic diviner saint had said. Swoosh! Suddenly, a figure flew over from the ocean and entered the cave Lin Feng, and the others had taken shelter in. It was a woman. After entering, she glanced at Lin Feng and the others. It's you? When she saw Lin Feng, she immediately cried out in alarm. Fairy wifey, it's you? Lin Feng grinned. Lin Feng had seen that little celestial girl in Thunder God City. She was a fairy born from a green lotus. She was a sacred spirit. Lin Feng hadn't thought he would meet little celestial here. Humph! She snorted and said, you're not allowed to call me fairy wifey. Otherwise, I'll beat you up, said the little celestial girl, waving her fists and looking at Lin Feng ferociously. However, she didn't look threatening at all. Lin Feng grinned. All right. I won't call you that for now. I'll call you that when you become my wife. She couldn't help but roll her eyes at Lin Feng, but she didn't refute Lin Feng. What's your name? Lin Feng asked. She frowned and said, I don't have a name. She had been born from a green lotus, so it was quite normal for her to not have a name. Of course, what surprised Lin Feng the most was that after such a long time, she hadn't given him a name yet. Said Lin Feng, do you want me to give you a name? All right, said little fairy, looking at Lin Feng with her big, sparkling eyes. Her eyes were pure and clean. They could calm one's heart with a single glance. Lin Feng said, we met in the sea today, and it's raining heavily. We're fated to be water and rain. Why don't we call you Shui Siyu? What do you think? Shui Siyu? Shui Siyu? Little fairy muttered the name. A smile appeared on her face. Thank you, Big Brother, for giving me a name. I really like this name. I'll be called Shui Siyu from now on, Little Fairy said, happily. Lin Feng smiled. As long as you like it. Little Fairy looked at Lin Feng and asked, What's your name, Big Brother? Lin Feng. You can call me Big Brother Feng from now on, Lin Feng said with a smile. Big Brother Feng. Little Fairy blushed and called out. Lin Feng smiled and asked, Why did you come here? Little Fairy said, I walked around and looked around. I've been to many places. You're alone outside, so you have to be careful. In the martial arts world, people are sinister. Lin Feng reminded her. Little Fairy's beautiful eyes instantly curved into crescents. She said, Big Brother, you don't have to worry about me. I can feel what you're thinking. Lin Feng was shocked. What kind of ability was that? Wasn't it too scary? She could peek into other people's thoughts. If anyone had bad intentions towards Little Fairy, they definitely wouldn't be able to hide from her senses. Little Fairy said, If anyone has bad intentions towards me, I'll beat them to the ground with one punch. Little Fairy waved her fist as she spoke. Lin Feng was starting to wonder if his Little Fairy had violent tendencies. Little Fairy looked at Lin Feng with a giggle and said, But Big Brother Feng has never had bad intentions towards Siyu. Big Brother Feng is a good person. Lin Feng couldn't help but sweat inwardly. Fortunately, he was a gentleman and wouldn't have any bad intentions. Otherwise, he might have already been beaten to the ground by Little Fairy with one punch. Boom, boom, boom. At that moment, the sound of thunder shook the heavens. Lightning bolts as thick as mountains came crashing down. The sky darkened, turning from day to night in an instant. When I came here earlier, I saw someone. Little Fairy said. Lin Feng's heart skipped a beat, and he asked, Who did you see? Little Fairy said, A very mysterious person. I've seen him before, and I vaguely heard others call him His Excellency. His Excellency. Lin Feng frowned slightly. This was the first time he'd heard of this name. However, since this person dared to call him His Excellency, it could be seen that this person was definitely not a simple character. Lin Feng said, Is this His Excellency undergoing his tribulation here? I don't think so. I think he's refining a treasure, Little Fairy said. Poison Ancestor cried out. Refining a magic treasure can cause such a huge commotion? What kind of magic treasure is this guy refining? Little Fairy shook her head and said, I don't know either. When I saw this person, I ran far away. He's too scary. As a sacred spirit, Little Fairy was innocent, but her strength was incomparably terrifying. She was so powerful that Lin Feng couldn't even tell what her current cultivation level was. To be able to make Little Fairy so wary, it was clear how powerful this His Excellency was. Rumble, rumble, lightning bolts came crashing down from the sky one after another. Between heaven and earth, not a sound could be heard. Only the lightning bolts descended. They became the only thing in the world, as if they wanted to destroy the entire world. Over 3,000 lightning bolts came crashing down. Only then did the tribulation dissipate. F***CK. What kind of treasure is so freakish that it can actually attract over 3,000 lightning bolts? Duzu cried out in shock. Lin Feng muttered, It can't be some sort of primordial killing weapon, right? At that moment, a man walked over from afar. He stepped forward in the void. The man was shrouded in darkness, and his appearance couldn't be seen clearly. However, the aura emanating from his body was suffocating. Little Fairy made a shushing gesture. She hurriedly retracted her aura. Lin Feng, Du Zhu, and the heretic holiness sage retracted their auras as well. Only after the mysterious man left did they let out a long sigh of relief. That man just now was simply too terrifying. Chapter 2267. He's the legendary Venerable One. Little Fairy said, with lingering fear after the man left. Duzu took a deep breath and said, "That guy's cultivation is too terrifying." For someone as fearless as Duzu to say something like that, it was obvious how powerful the Venerable One was. This world is really full of experts. Lin Feng sighed. He then looked at Little Fairy and asked, "See, where do you plan to go?" "I heard that the Dark Ocean Divine Kingdom is holding an overseas insect exchange. I want to go and take a look," Little Fairy said. "Insect exchange? What kind of exchange is that?" Lin Feng asked in surprise. "It's said that it's the most popular gathering for cultivators who rear spiritual, poisonous, immortal, demonic, and other insects. At that time, many legendary insects will appear. If you're lucky, you might even be able to buy some powerful insects to cultivate. Moreover, you'll be able to buy all kinds of insect materials. Therefore, many cultivators who rear insects will choose to participate. Even if they don't buy other insects, they'll try their best to buy the materials they need," Little Fairy said. After hearing Little Fairy's explanation, Lin Feng's interest in the insect exchange was piqued. Lin Feng had two kinds of powerful insects. The first was the primordial ancestor insect. He had been cultivating it for a very long time and had thought that it would hatch soon. However, after such a long time, the primordial ancestor insect still hadn't hatched. It seemed that if he wanted to hatch the primordial ancestor insect, he would need to find some precious insect materials to cultivate it, apart from the primordial ancestor insect. Lin Feng had also obtained a primordial demon refining insect. The primordial ancestor insect was an insect with heaven-defying individual combat strength. As for the primordial demon refining insect, it was a terrifying swarm of insects. The primordial demon refining insect was already powerful enough. Once they formed a huge swarm, they would be even more terrifying. He would be able to create a world-destroying momentum. He would eat gods, devils, ghosts, immortals, and Buddhas. He would be able to eat gods, devils, ghosts, immortals, and Buddhas. This was the great, desolate demon-refining insect swarm. No matter how terrifying an expert was, they would be devoured by these great, desolate demon-refining insects. However, Lin Feng only had one mother worm at the moment. If he wanted the mother worm to lay eggs, he needed to find enough materials to cultivate the mother worm. Only by providing sufficient nutrients to the queen insect would they be able to survive. Only then could the queen insect lay new eggs. Therefore, Lin Feng was very interested in this insect path exchange. If he could obtain the insect materials he needed, it would not be difficult to cultivate the ancient ancestral insect and primitive demon refining insect swarms. Lin Feng said, "I also plan to head to the Dark Ocean Divine Kingdom to participate in the Insect Tao Exchange. Why don't we go together?" "Sure." Little Fairy's beautiful big eyes curved into crescents. At this moment, the sky outside was once again clear and boundless. Lin Feng brought out the ancient starship Xianyuan. The four of them boarded the ancient starry sky ship Xianyuan. Then, the ancient starship set off for the Dark Ocean Divine Kingdom. The Dark Ocean Divine Kingdom was the #1 power in the Dark Ocean realm. Experts were as common as clouds. The last time he came to the Dark Ocean Divine Kingdom, it was because Fairy Clear Snow wanted to step on the ancient starry sky path to the undying realm. The news spread like wildfire. So Lin Feng came to the Dark Ocean Divine Kingdom to pay his respects to Fairy Clear Snow. 10 days later, the Dark Ocean Divine Kingdom appeared in his sight. Little Fairy said, "I've long heard that a fairy sister was born from an immortal lotus. She stepped on the ancient starry sky path from the Dark Ocean Divine Kingdom and headed to the undying realm. It's a pity that I didn't get to meet her. Fairy Clear Snow was born from an immortal lotus and was also a holy spirit. As for Little Fairy, she was born from an immortal lotus and was also a holy spirit. Both of them had the temperament of someone who could rise from the mud without being stained. The only difference was that the lotuses that gave birth to them were different. Lin Feng asked, "What kind of lotus can give birth to a holy spirit like you?" Little Fairy said, "It takes root in the world's origin energy and absorbs its energy. That's the prerequisite." Lin Feng said, "That's the immortal root of heaven and earth." That's right. Lotuses like that aren't common, but when they appear, they can give birth to powerful holy spirits. Little Fairy said. Lin Feng put away the Xianyuan ancient starship, and the four of them entered the Dark Ocean Divine Kingdom's main city, the Dark Ocean ancient capital. As the largest gathering place of cultivators in the Dark Ocean, the Dark Ocean ancient capital was always bustling with activity. Now, the Insect Dao exchange was about to begin. It attracted even more cultivators, so the Dark Ocean ancient capital became even more lively. "It's so lively here." Little Fairy looked around. Selling spirit origin bugs. They can help you find origin crystal veins. Selling evil-eyed demon queen bugs. They can be raised into a swarm with terrifying offensive power. With the help of these evil-eyed demon queen bugs, fighting those stronger than you is no longer a dream. Selling 8-armed scorpion bugs. These bugs are extremely poisonous. Once bitten, no matter how high your cultivation is, your soul will die. The streets were filled with incessant hawking. Many people were selling all kinds of bugs. Lin Feng hadn't even heard of many of these bugs, so he gained a lot of knowledge. There were several times when Lin Feng couldn't help but want to buy some bugs, but Little Fairy stopped him. The bugs these vendors are selling are all lies. They're not as powerful as they say. Little Fairy said. Little Fairy was able to see what others were thinking. Therefore, the vendors couldn't hide their thoughts from Little Fairy. They might be able to deceive many cultivators who didn't know much about the Insect Dao. However, they couldn't deceive Little Fairy. Boom! A violent shock wave came from the distance. Many people were alarmed and looked over. There were cultivators fighting in the distance. Tens of cultivators had surrounded a cultivator shrouded in black robes. "Let's go and take a look. They're about to fight." Many cultivators shouted. It was human nature to watch a show. Therefore, many people rushed over when they saw that there was a show to watch. "Let's go and take a look," Little Fairy said excitedly. Clearly, she was also very interested in watching a show. Lin Feng, Du Zhu, and the Heretic Sovereign Sage followed. The Poison Immortal sect is here to do something. Unrelated people should quickly back off. Otherwise, don't blame us for not warning you if we accidentally kill you. Seeing that many cultivators had gathered around to watch the show, a blue-clothed cultivator immediately said coldly, "What? The Poison Immortal sect? Hurry up and back off." Many people paled when they heard the words Poison Immortal sect. They quickly backed off as if they were avoiding snakes and scorpions. Chapter 2268. Poison Immortal sect. Lin Feng raised his eyebrows slightly. He had never heard of this faction before, but seeing how these people were scared out of their wits after hearing the name, he knew that this faction was definitely not simple. It was very likely to be an extremely terrifying faction. Lin Feng, Little Fairy, Du Zhu, and Evil Sovereign Saint did not get too close. They were watching the show from the periphery. Seeing the surrounding cultivators retreat, the Poison Immortal Sect's cultivators were clearly pleased. Many people did not know much about the Poison Immortal Sect, so some cultivators asked the cultivators around them what kind of faction it was. A Poison Immortal Sect cultivator said, "It's a hidden sect that belongs to the evil faction. It's very powerful, and is most proficient in using poison. They rear all kinds of poisonous insects. How is it compared to the Gu evil sect? Someone asked. The Gu evil sect was an evil faction that was quite famous. It was very proficient in rearing all kinds of poisonous insects. The Gu evil sect is nothing in front of the Poison Immortal sect. Although the Poison Immortal sect is not as famous as the Gu evil sect, that's because they keep a low profile. In terms of strength, the Poison Immortal sect is many times stronger than the Gu evil sect. This Poison Immortal sect is so powerful. Lin Feng also heard some of the discussions around him. So this Poison Immortal sect was a sect that reared insects and was proficient in using poison. Few people dared to provoke such a faction. This was because such a faction could kill without a sound. Once provoked, there was an 80% chance of ending up in a bad situation. Now that the Poison Immortal sect's cultivators were making a move, it was inevitable that they would use poison. That was why everyone retreated like they were avoiding snakes and scorpions. They did not want to be caught in the crossfire. Hand over that item, and we'll give you a quick death. Otherwise, we'll make you suffer a fate worse than death. The blue-robed Poison Immortal sect cultivator said coldly. What item? Many people looked at each other in dismay. They couldn't help but reveal their interest. A treasure that could catch the attention of the Poison Immortal sect was definitely a great treasure. However, the people of the Poison Immortal sect obviously didn't intend to reveal what kind of treasure it was in front of everyone. And the mysterious person shrouded in a black robe didn't intend to reveal it either. Therefore, even though many people wanted to know what kind of treasure it was, they didn't know what it was. However, no one told them, so they could only guess what kind of treasure it was. If you want it, feel free to try. If you have the ability, then the treasure will naturally be yours. If you don't, then all of you will die in my hands today. A hoarse voice came out. This voice was very unpleasant to the ears, like the mournful cry of an owl. It was very ear-piercing. It was unknown if this mysterious person's voice was originally like this, or if this person had deliberately altered his voice. Since you don't know the difference between life and death, we'll send you to the Western Paradise today. The blue-clothed cultivator shouted coldly. This group of people from Poison Immortal sect clearly viewed him as their leader. Boom! A group of people besieged the black-clothed cultivator. Colorless poisonous smoke spread out and shrouded the black-clothed cultivator. It's the five-colored poisonous smoke. Many people couldn't help but exclaim. Multicolored poison smoke. This was a terrifying and highly toxic poison. It was refined from the 5 poisons. There were many ways to refine the 5-colored poisonous smoke. Depending on the type of 5 poisons, the power of the 5-colored poisonous smoke would also be different. For a powerful sect like the Poison Immortal sect, the 5-colored poisonous smoke that they controlled was definitely extremely terrifying. Many people quickly retreated, afraid of being caught in the crossfire. Insignificant skill. Facing the 5-colored poisonous smoke, the black-clothed cultivator sneered with disdain. Whoosh! Then he took a deep breath. All of the 5-colored poisonous smoke surged towards the black-robed cultivator, who then devoured all of it. Heavens, the 5-colored poisonous smoke is such a terrifying poison, but he swallowed it just like that. Many people sucked in a breath of cold air. Even the poison ancestor let out a cry of surprise. Obviously, Dusu was also quite surprised. Now it's my turn to attack, the black-robed cultivator said sinisterly. His wide black robe suddenly fluttered, and a dense swarm of poisonous insects flew out. The poisonous insects landed on the faces of the cultivators. It was a 7-colored poisonous insect that looked like a ladybug. It emitted an evil power. 7-colored ladybug. Someone recognized the poisonous insect, and his expression became extremely solemn. The seven-colored ladybug was an extremely terrifying poisonous insect. It contained 7 different poisons. Once bitten by the seven-colored ladybug, the 7 different poisons would enter the victim's body from the wound, and the victim's body would quickly fester. This poisonous insect was extremely rare and difficult to cultivate. It hadn't appeared for many years. But now, everyone saw the 7-colored ladybug again. Ah! The group of people let out shrill screams. They reached out to grab the poisonous insects on their faces. Bang! But in the next moment, the cultivators of the poison immortal sect fell to the ground and died. Come back! The black-clothed cultivator reached out a pale hand and waved at the poisonous insects. All the poisonous insects flew back. Then he left into the distance. He didn't even take the storage rings of the dead cultivators of the poison immortal sect. It was as if he disdained to take them. The storage ring is mine, many people shouted loudly and pounced over. The black-clothed cultivator didn't care about the storage rings of the poison immortal sect cultivators. But in the eyes of the other cultivators, the storage rings of the dead cultivators of the poison immortal sect were definitely worth fighting for. Lin Feng looked at Du Zhu and said, "What do you think that person's level is? He's an expert in using poison. He's very scary. Also, I feel that he has more than one type of poisonous insect on him. It seems like there are even more terrifying ones that he hasn't released yet," Du Zhu said. Lin Feng nodded and found an inn with Little Fairy, Du Zhu, and the heretic sovereign sage to rest. They rented a small courtyard in a high-end Inspi Yuan district. After resting for a day, Lin Feng planned to go to Insect City to take a look. At night, Du Zhu grinned and said, "The Dark Ocean ancient capital has many exotic places. Why don't we go and have some fun tonight?" The big zombie said coldly, "Not going." Du Zhu pursed his lips and said, "I didn't invite you. I invited young master to have some fun together. As for you, you can go wherever you want. I don't care what you do." Chapter 2269. The Dark Sea Ancient Capital is a city that never sleeps. There are indeed many decent brothels here. Lin Feng smiled. He wasn't a pure and simple person. On the contrary, Lin Feng was a very open person. When it was time to cultivate, he was more hardworking than anyone else. When it was time to relax, he was more relaxed than anyone else. "Then let's go now," Du Zhu said impatiently. Lin Feng nodded and walked out with Du Zhu. The heretic sovereign sage followed them. Du Zhu said, "Didn't you say you weren't going? Why are you following us now?" "To protect Master," the heretic sovereign sage said. Du Zhu rolled his eyes and cursed, "Shameless bastard. If you want to go, then go. Stop looking for excuses. I think you're the most shameless among us." The heretic sovereign sage knew that even 10 of him wouldn't be a match for Du Zhu when it came to talking, so he ignored Du Zhu. The poison ancestor was annoyed, so he didn't say anything else. Instead, he started talking to Lin Feng about where they should go. "What are you going to do?" asked Little Celestial when she saw Lin Feng and the others come out. "We're going to drink," Lin Feng said. "Then I want to go too," Little Fairy said excitedly. Du Zhu said, "That kind of place isn't suitable for you. Girls should sleep early. That way, your skin will be better and prettier. You should stay here and sleep." Little Fairy said with a smile, "Are you going to do some shady business? That's why you're not bringing me along." At this moment, Du Zhu remembered that Little Fairy could read other people's thoughts. Du Zhu swallowed the words he was about to blurt out. Lin Feng said, "Of course not. We're just going to drink. If you want to come, you can come with us." "Big Brother Feng is the best," Little Fairy giggled. With Little Fairy in the group, they naturally couldn't go to the brothels. Instead, they went to the Myriad Flower Building. This place was more formal. Lin Gongzi, as soon as he entered the Myriad Flower Building, he heard someone calling out to him. Lin Feng turned his head and saw a beautiful woman walking over. Northern Fairy Court. Lin Feng had a rather deep impression of this woman. The last time he came to the Dark Sea ancient capital, he had some interactions with this woman. On the surface, this woman was the owner of the Monarch Gazing Restaurant, an extremely famous restaurant in the Dark Sea ancient capital. But behind the scenes, there were obviously some extraordinary identities. It was just that Lin Feng didn't know the identity behind the Northern Fairy Court. So it's Fairy from the Immortal Park. I didn't think that I would meet Fairy here. Lin Feng smiled and cupped his fists. He didn't have a deep relationship with the Northern Fairy Garden. At most, they were just acquaintances. Ha ha ha, maybe this is fate. Northern Fairy Yuan giggled as she stared at Lin Feng. No one knew what she was thinking. Lin Feng smiled and said, "It's my honor to be able to meet you, celestial being." "You really know how to talk, young master." Northern Fairy Yuan giggled and said, "Tomorrow, some good things will appear in the insect market. I wonder if young master has the time to accompany me to take a look." How could I dare to refuse Fairy's invitation? Lin Feng smiled and said. Northern Fairy Yuan revealed a beautiful smile and said, "Then I won't disturb young master's gathering with your friends. I'll take my leave." Northern Fairy Yuan bowed as she said that. Then she left. After Northern Fairy Yuan left, Duzu grinned and said, "Young master really loves everyone. Casting a wide net, catching fish diligently. You have a confidant everywhere." Lin Feng said, "That woman can't be considered a confidant. She's very mysterious." Lin Feng knew very little about the Northern Celestial Court, so he didn't talk too much about her. Little Fairy said, "This big sister seems to be plotting against Big Brother Feng. Big Brother Feng, you have to be careful." "Plotting against me? How is she plotting against me?" Lin Feng couldn't help but frown slightly. "I don't know. I wanted to investigate carefully, but there was a mysterious force that prevented me from probing into the depths of her heart," Little Fairy said. Lin Feng couldn't help but rub his chin. He wasn't familiar with Northern Fairy Yuan. They didn't have much interaction with each other. He really couldn't understand what Northern Fairy Yuan was plotting against him. Lin Feng had always been an optimistic person. He wouldn't be troubled by things he didn't understand. Soon, he threw this matter to the back of his mind. Since he knew Northern Fairy Yuan was plotting against him, he had to be careful. He just had to be on guard against her. With his abilities, he had to be careful. It wasn't particularly difficult to guard against her schemes. Late at night, the four returned. The next day, Northern Fairy Yuan sent someone to pick up Lin Feng. Lin Feng, Little Fairy, Duzu, the heretic sovereign sage, and Lin Feng arrived at June Gazing Pavilion in a beast carriage. After seeing Northern Fairy Yuan, Lin Feng said, "Fairy, you wouldn't mind if I brought a few friends with me, right?" Northern Fairy Yuan smiled. "Of course not. Young master's friends are my friends." Northern Fairy Yuan was very good at winning over people's hearts. With just a few words, she was able to close the relationship between two parties. However, Lin Feng already knew that Northern Fairy Yuan was plotting against him. Thus, Lin Feng was feigning civility with Northern Fairy Yuan on the surface, but he was secretly on guard against her. He smiled and said, "When should we depart?" "Let's depart now," Northern Fairy Yuan said. The group set off for Insect City. Insect City was located northwest of the Nether Ocean ancient capital. Right now, the insect market was very lively. One could see many shops and stalls here. Some of these shops and stalls sold all kinds of insect eggs and mother insects. There were also many stalls selling insect materials. Young master, are you rearing insects? Northern Fairy Yuan asked. Lin Feng said, Yes, I'm rearing some insects. I'm looking for some insect materials. May I know what kind of insects you're rearing? Northern Fairy Yuan asked. Lin Feng did not hide anything. An archaic, ancestral insect egg. It's about to hatch, but I feel like it's still lacking. There's also a great, desolate demon-refining insect queen. Northern Fairy Yuan was shocked. These two types of insects are not simple. The insect materials required to rearing them are extremely difficult to find. Fairy, you seem to be very familiar with this place. Do you know where I can buy such insect materials? Lin Feng asked. Young master, come with me. Perhaps you can find them there. Northern Fairy Yuan said. Thank you very much for showing me the way, said Lin Feng. The group headed toward the place Northern Fairy Yuan had mentioned. Finally, Northern Fairy Yuan stopped in front of a huge palace. The words Nether Ocean Ancient Insect Palace were written on the palace. This place is backed by the imperial family of the Nether Ocean Divine Kingdom, so there are many good things for sale. Northern Fairy Yuan said. Lin Feng nodded. The group entered the palace. Just as they entered, a cultivator walked in. When he saw the cultivator, Lin Feng was slightly surprised. The cultivator who had entered was the mysterious black-robed cultivator who had killed the cultivators from the poison immortal sect earlier. The black-robed cultivator seemed to sense something and looked at Lin Feng. His eyes met with Lin Feng's. The black-robed cultivator looked deeply at Lin Feng, then retracted his gaze and walked deeper into the palace. Chapter 2270. Lin Gongzi, do you know that person? Northern Fairy Garden smiled and asked Lin Feng. Lin Feng shook his head. I don't know him, but I've seen him before. Northern Fairy Garden smiled. That person's background is not simple. I'd like to hear the details. Lin Feng looked at Northern Fairy Garden. Northern Fairy Garden chuckled and said, This is a secret. How can I reveal it so casually? If young master wants to know, then wait for us to return to the June Gazing Pavilion. Just the two of us. Then we can discuss this matter. Lin Feng laughed coldly in his heart. He did not know what Northern Fairy Garden was up to. However, he was confident in his skills and was not afraid that the Northern Fairy Garden would plot against him. Lin Feng smiled and said, All right, it'll be just the two of us. We can talk and do whatever we want without anyone knowing. The Northern Fairy Garden laughed and said, Yesterday, I told you that there would be some good stuff for sale today. The place where the good stuff will be sold is in the ancient Worm Palace of the Dark Sea. When the time comes, I will bring you there to take a look. Maybe there will be something that you like. But before that, let's see if we can buy some insect materials that you need. Please follow me. Thank you for leading the way, Fairy Garden, Lin Feng said with a smile. Northern Fairy Garden laughed and said, Young master, you don't have to be so polite. Otherwise, I'll get angry, said Lin Feng, smiling. He didn't reply to Bei Xian Yuan. Bei Xian Yuan's words were ambiguous. Lin Feng had no intention of flirting with this woman. Under Northern Fairy Garden's lead, Lin Feng arrived at the 4th floor and met an elder in the ancient Worm Palace of the Netherworld Ocean. This elder was called Lu Jianzhong. Lin Feng took out a piece of paper from the Northern Celestial Yuan and took out a piece of paper. There were more than 10 insect materials written on the paper. They were all used to cultivate Archean insect eggs and primitive demon refining insects. Blood Jade Dew, Chilean Immortal Grass, Dao Spiritual Fruit. Lu Jianzhong looked at the dozen insect materials listed on the list and frowned slightly. Elder Lu, Do you not have any of these insect materials here? Northern Xianyuan asked. Lu Jianzhong said, These insect materials are very precious. Originally, there were some, but a lot of them were bought during this time. Now, there are only 2 kinds of insect materials left in the treasury. Lin Feng was slightly disappointed, but being able to collect 2 kinds of insect materials was already a good harvest. He said, I'll have to trouble Elder Lu to bring these insect materials here. Lin Gongzi, wait a moment. I'll go look for it. Lu Jianzhong smiled, then got up and left. About an hour later, Lu Jianzhong returned. Lin Gongzi. These are the remaining 2 insect materials in the treasury. They are blood jade dew and spirit breath fruit. As Lu Jianzhong spoke, he took out 2 kinds of insect materials. Blood jade dew was a type of dew that was blood-colored. It was used to nurture archaic ancestral insect eggs. The spiritual breath fruit was a type of fruit. It was used to nurture archaic demon-refining insects. Lu Jianzhong took out a total of 3 bottles of blood jade dew and 10 spirit breath fruits. Although there were not many things, they were extremely expensive. Lin Feng paid a total of 72 million origin crystals. I'll have to trouble Elder Lu to continue to inquire about these insect materials. If they arrive, please inform me as soon as possible. I'll definitely buy them at a high price. Lin Feng said, Lin Gongzi, don't worry. If they arrive, I'll definitely inform Lin Gongzi. Lu Jianzhong said with a smile. He liked doing business with people like Lin Feng the most. Doing business with others. Many people liked to haggle. Lin Feng, on the other hand, was rich and imposing. There was no haggling at all. This made Lu Jianzhong have a very good impression of Lin Feng. Thank you, Elder Lu. Lin Feng cupped his fists. Elder Lu, we still have to go up to the trade fair. We won't stay here for long. Northern Xianyuan said, with a smile, I'll send you off. Elder Lu said. After leaving Elder Lu's place, Lin Feng and the others headed to the 7th floor. The trade fair's destination was the 7th floor. It seems that these things are far from what you need. Young master, Northern Xianyuan said. Lin Feng nodded and said if there were 10 times more things the ancestral insect eggs might be able to hatch, and the great desolate demon refining insect, Queen, might start laying eggs again. However, these materials are extremely rare, and it's not easy to find them. Perhaps they'll be available at the trade fair, Northern Xianyuan said. Lin Feng nodded. I hope so. The group arrived at the trade fair on the 7th floor. This trade fair's standards were extremely high, and not just anyone could participate. However, with Northern Xianyuan around, Lin Feng and the others were able to smoothly enter the trade fair. There were about 1,000 people in the trade fair. Everyone was scattered throughout the hall. Many people took out the things they wanted to trade. Then, they placed them in front of them. If they took a liking to something, they could negotiate. Are those ancient god-eater insect eggs? Duzu pointed at a stall with some insect eggs. The ancient god-eater insect was one of the top 10 ancestral insects. It was said that these insects fed on gods. That was why they were called god-eater insects. Lin Feng and the others walked over and asked around. Sure enough, they were ancient god-eater insect eggs. What would you like to trade? Duzu asked. He seemed very interested in the ancient god-eater insect eggs. The stall owner said, I need 3 flame fiend hearts. Flame fiend hearts? Could it be the heart of an ancient flame fiend? Duzu frowned and asked. Ancient flame fiends were known as divine beasts of fire born from flames. Flame fiends looked like scorpions that had been enlarged tens of thousands of times. However, the flame demon had wings, and its entire body was a fiery red color wreathed in flames. These divine beasts of fire were extremely powerful and evil. After the end of the primordial era, they had never appeared again. It was unknown whether or not their race had been wiped out. That's right, their ancient flame fiends' hearts. The stall owner nodded. I don't have flame fiend hearts, but I have many other treasures. Perhaps I can use them to trade for your ancient god-eater insect eggs. Duzu said, Sorry, I only want the flame fiend hearts. The stall owner said. Then he narrowed his eyes and stopped talking to Duzu. Lin Feng said, Let's go to the other stalls to take a look. The few of them walked toward the other stalls. Northern Fairy Yuan said, These people usually barter. If they can't find something they like, they won't trade with others. Lin Feng and the others knew this as well. Everyone nodded. Everyone, I would like to sell an Emperor archaic insect egg. I wonder if anyone can afford it. At this moment, a cultivator spoke. His words caused a huge commotion. Chapter 2271. The Emperor Archaic was a legendary existence. An adult Emperor Archaic could even fight against a great emperor. There were even rumors that the primordial Emperor Butterfly had once killed a great emperor with a flap of its wings. From this, it could be seen how terrifying the Emperor Archaic was. The strength of such a being was unimaginable and shocking. Lin Feng had heard of the Emperor Archaic countless times. In the long years, the Emperor Archaic had only appeared a few times. Every time he appeared, it would cause a huge commotion. It was because of this that the Emperor Archaic was remembered by the world. The Emperor Archaic's strength was deeply ingrained in people's hearts. Even though the number of times the primordial Emperor Butterfly appeared was extremely few, every time the name of the primordial Emperor Butterfly appeared, everyone would feel a bone-chilling feeling in their hearts. This was because such a being was too terrifying. Now, someone was actually selling the Emperor Archaic's beast egg. This made everyone feel incredulous. Is this person crazy? He's not hatching the Emperor Archaic's egg himself, and is actually selling it. He probably hatched it for a long time without success. For a heaven-defying being like the Emperor Archaic, hatching it would be extremely difficult. Yeah, how could such a terrifying being be hatched so easily? It would probably consume countless precious insect materials. Normal people wouldn't be able to afford such a huge consumption. Many cultivators were discussing spiritedly as they looked at the beast egg in the cultivator's hand with shining eyes. The beast egg was sealed in a transparent glass bottle. The beast egg was about the size of a thumb and had a golden luster. It was surrounded by countless runes. Is that the Emperor Archaic's beast egg? After seeing the beast egg, Lin Feng's eyes lit up. He really wanted to rush up and snatch the Emperor Archaic's beast egg from the cultivator's hand. Such a treasure. It was enough to make anyone go crazy. Fellow Taoist, what are you planning to exchange the Emperor Archaic's beast egg for? Someone asked aloud. Everyone you can bid. The highest bidder will get it. I don't have much interest in cultivating insects. If you have any other treasures, you can take them out and bid. The cultivator said indifferently. The cultivator wore a long green robe and had a square face. He had a scholarly aura and looked like a well-read scholar. Nature energy. Lin Feng was surprised. He had indeed sensed the vital energy of righteousness from that cultivator's body. Righteous energy was the power cultivated by Confucian cultivators. Confucian Taoist cultivators were relatively rare. Lin Feng and Ning Xiaocai were rather familiar with each other. The old Xiaocai had been studying for 80 years. Although he had never cultivated before, he had an aura of righteousness around him. At the age of 84, he directly went through the tribulation to become a God realm expert. It was truly amazing how extraordinary the path of Confucianism was. However, Lin Feng had not seen elementary scholarning for many years. When he had returned to the Tianwu continent, he had heard that elementary scholarning had come to the 9 prefectures. However, the land of the 9 prefectures was vast and boundless. It was simply too difficult to find a single person. I bid 10 pieces of sun gold essence. Soon, a cultivator shouted out his bid. Sun gold essence was a supreme divine material born from the sun. It was said that it could be forged into an emperor weapon. I bid 15 pieces of star-setting moon iron. Immediately after, another cultivator shouted out his bid. I bid a set of giant divine soldier-level equipment. There are a total of 13 pieces of various magic treasures. I bid a boundary emperor weapon. I bid one of the top 20 great Tao of the 3,000 great Tao. I bid an emperor technique. More and more people participated in the bidding. The price also rose. There was no lack of rich cultivators here, and the treasures they took out were also varied. Many of the treasures were extremely precious. Lin Feng was a little moved. Many people had put in a lot of effort to get this Emperor Archaic Egg. I'll offer a damaged monarch weapon. Perhaps there is a chance to repair it. The black-robed cultivator said aloud. As soon as he said that, the entire trading hall became silent. Although the emperor weapon was broken, it was still an emperor weapon. It was not something that could be casually compared to any magic treasure. A broken emperor weapon. There was indeed a day when it could be repaired. Once it was repaired, it would become a true emperor weapon. At that time, it would still be incomparably heaven-defying. Who would take out such a treasure? Who would be willing to take it out? The black-robed cultivator did not hesitate to take it out. Lin Feng had a very deep impression of this person. Previously, when he killed a group of experts from the Poison Immortal sect, this black-robed cultivator displayed a very terrifying ability. "Is there anyone else who wants to trade with me?" the Confucian expert asked. For a moment, no one in the trading hall made another bid. "I bid 4 divine abilities," Lin Feng said. The Confucian cultivator looked at Lin Feng and asked, "What divine abilities?" Lin Feng said, "These 4 divine abilities are one of the 3,000 great Tao and 3 emperor techniques. The Great Disaster Technique is ranked 9th among the 3,000 great Tao. The 3 emperor techniques are the 4-armed sacred demon fist, 9 slashes of the demon emperor, the 10,000 demon reincarnation fist. Hiss. The Great Disaster Technique is ranked 9th among the 3,000 great Tao and 3 emperor techniques. Who is this young cultivator? His moves are extraordinary. Many people could not help but suck in a breath of cold air. Everyone looked at Lin Feng and guessed Lin Feng's identity. I've been trying to cultivate both Confucian and demonic recently, so I can use these 3 demonic emperor techniques. The Great Disaster Technique is a divine ability that everyone dreams of. Not bad. Not bad. The Confucian cultivator nodded in satisfaction. The black-robed cultivator said, "How can a few great Tao compare to my emperor weapon? Even if the emperor weapon is broken, its value is far greater than a few great Tao." The Confucian cultivator said, "Your emperor weapon is naturally precious, but I don't lack powerful protective treasures. No matter how good your emperor weapon is, it's not destined for me." Humph. Hearing the Confucian cultivator's words, the black-robed cultivator could not help but snort coldly. His expression was indifferent, but he did not say anything else. "Young man, I'll trade with you," the Confucian cultivator said. Lin Feng took out a jade tube and said, "The cultivation methods of the 4 great Tao are recorded in this jade tube. Please take a closer look." The Confucian cultivator said, "The Emperor Archaic Egg is here. Please take a look." Both sides exchanged items. Lin Feng mainly checked if the Emperor archaic egg was still alive. The Confucian cultivator checked if the cultivation methods of the four great Tao were broken. Both sides checked and found that there were no problems, so they smiled. No problem, the Confucian cultivator said with a smile. I have no problem here either. Lin Feng smiled. Chapter 2272. Congratulations, young master, for obtaining the Emperor archaic egg. Congratulations, master, for obtaining the Emperor archaic egg. Congratulations, big brother Feng, for obtaining the Emperor archaic egg. Du Zhu, the evil sovereign sage, and little fairy all thanked Lin Feng. They were sincerely happy for Lin Feng. He. Xian Yuan also congratulates young master for obtaining the Emperor archaic egg. Northern Xian Yuan said with a charming smile. Ha! I still have to thank Fairy for bringing me here. Otherwise, how could I obtain the Emperor archaic egg? Lin Feng said with a smile. The Emperor archaic was a terrifying existence that could kill great emperors. To be able to obtain the Emperor archaic egg, Lin Feng was naturally very excited. Now, Lin Feng already had the archaic ancestral worm egg, the chaos demon refining insect queen, and now he had obtained the Emperor archaic egg. Once the archaic ancestral worm, the Emperor archaic, and the chaos demon refining insect swarm hatch successfully. When the time comes, they will form an insect army. Wouldn't they be able to kill anyone in their way? If anyone dares to blindly jump around in front of him, he wouldn't even have to do anything. He could just summon the insect swarm and take the opponent's life. Northern Xian Yuan said with a charming smile, if young master really wants to thank me, then when we are alone later, young master will have to perform well. Northern Xian Yuan's words were very flirtatious, but Lin Feng only laughed it off. Lin Feng said with a smile, when the time comes, I will definitely follow Fairy's wishes. Then it's a deal. Northern Xian Yuan winked at Lin Feng. After the Emperor archaic egg transaction was completed, the trading hall returned to normal. Cultivators gathered in groups of 2s and 3s, discussing the price of the insect eggs, insect queen, or insect materials that they wanted to purchase. Lin Feng noticed that the black-robed cultivator would occasionally glance in his direction with a cold glint in his eyes. Clearly, the black-robed cultivator was still brooding over what happened earlier. However, Lin Feng did not care about what the black-robed cultivator was thinking. It was fine as long as this person didn't provoke him. If he dared to provoke him, would he be afraid of him? Now, Lin Feng had extraordinary means, and he also had a pseudo-emperor level puppet. Unless it was an extremely heaven-defying character, Lin Feng was not afraid of anyone. Lin Gongzi, come and take a look. Is this the heavenly orchid grass you want? Baixian Yuan stood in front of a stall and waved at Lin Feng. Lin Feng walked over and found that the stall was indeed selling geraniums. This kind of heavenly orchid grass was a material used to cultivate the mother worms of demon refining insects of the Great Desolate Era. The effect was excellent. There were a total of 36 stalks. Lin Feng asked, "What's the price for your heavenly orchid grass?" The other party was a cultivator with an aura of death around him. He should be an evil cultivator. When he saw Lin Feng, he grinned. He had a deep impression of Lin Feng. Give me the great calamity technique, and the heavenly orchid grass is yours, the evil cultivator said. Lin Feng couldn't help but roll his eyes. No matter how precious the heavenly orchid grass was, it was not worth mentioning compared to the great calamity technique. This guy was obviously trying to extort Lin Feng. Du Zhu rolled up his sleeves and said, "You want to exchange a few stalks of grass for the great calamity technique? Do you believe that I won't punch you? I'll let you see a fist bigger than a sandbag." The evil cultivator said calmly, There are people from the Dark Ocean Divine Kingdom maintaining order here. If you want to fight, I'm afraid you'll be thrown out." Lin Feng patted Du Zhu's shoulder, indicating that he didn't need to be angry with this person. It was not worth it. "Let's take a look at the other stalls," Lin Feng said. He turned and walked towards the other stalls. Seeing that Lin Feng was about to leave, the evil cultivator immediately said, "Why are you leaving so quickly? Everything can be discussed. I don't want to talk nonsense with you." The four-armed sacred demon fist, the 9 slashes of the demon emperor, and the 10,000 demon reincarnation fist are very useful to evil cultivators like you. You can choose any one of these 3 emperor techniques, and the heavenly orchid grass is mine. Lin Feng said indifferently. The evil cultivator originally wanted to stop Lin Feng and exchange the heavenly orchid grass for Lin Feng's 3 emperor techniques. However, when he saw that Lin Feng was very firm and only wanted to exchange 1 emperor technique for the heavenly orchid grass, he felt a little depressed. However, he could only compromise in the end. This evil cultivator's instinct told him that if he made any new requests, the deal would end early. He could obtain 1 emperor technique of the demon Tao. In truth, the evil cultivator was quite satisfied with the result. "Okay, I'll exchange it with you," the evil cultivator said. "I want the 9 slashes of the demon emperor." "No problem." Lin Feng nodded and took out a jade tube. After imprinting the 9 slashes of the demon emperor, he handed the jade tube to the evil cultivator. Lin Feng took 36 stalks of heavenly orchid grass. "Everyone, I want to sell a queen insect. This queen insect is called the blue scorpion queen insect. It's a type of poisonous blue scorpion. Friends who are interested can bid." At this moment, another cultivator came to the middle of the transaction hall and shouted, "Blue scorpion queen insect, that's a highly poisonous creature. It's said that 10 drops of blue scorpion queen insect's poison can kill a great emperor." "So poisonous." "Yes, this is a poisonous insect that only appeared in the chaotic ancient era. It's said that this poisonous insect came from the foreign realm." "The foreign realm? Things are really scary. I'll offer a heavenly Tao origin crystal. I'll offer 3 heavenly dragon inner cores." After a short discussion, many cultivators started to participate in the bidding. In the end, the blue scorpion queen insect was bought by a mysterious woman wearing a veil. Lin Feng collected 2 more insect materials. They were fire snake crystal and dark demon spirit grass. Fire snake crystal was used to nurture immemorial ancestral insect eggs. Dark demon spirit grass was used to nurture desolate era's demon refining insect, queen insect. Cultivating the primordial emperor butterfly's eggs also required many precious insect materials. However, Lin Feng was slightly disappointed that no insect materials for nurturing emperor archaic appeared in the transaction hall. The first day of the transaction hall ended. Everyone dispersed. Lin Feng looked at Du Zhu, evil sovereign sage, and little fairy, and said, "You guys can go back first. I will follow Fairy Yuan to June Pavilion." Little fairy winked at Lin Feng. Clearly, she was reminding Lin Feng to be careful of Northern Fairy Yuan. Lin Feng nodded without leaving any trace behind. "Young master, you must have fun," Du Zhu said with a grin. His eyes swept back and forth between Lin Feng and Northern Fairy Yuan. Then he let out a mischievous smile. Lin Feng nearly kicked Du Zhu into the foreign realm. This fellow's personality was one of wanting to stir up trouble. "Young master, let's go," Northern Fairy Yuan said, and walked towards the beast carriage. Lin Feng followed behind Northern Fairy Yuan and boarded her beast carriage. They headed towards June Pavilion. Chapter 2273. On the 5th floor of June Gazing Pavilion, the sound of a zither could be heard. a group of beautiful dancers were dancing gracefully. Northern Fairy Yuan was playing the zither herself. The sound of the zither lingered in the air. It was beautiful. Lin Feng was enjoying the music as he drank. He had a smile on his face as he tried to guess why Northern Fairy Yuan had called him here. Since Little Fairy had sensed that this person was harboring ill intentions towards him, Lin Feng believed that Little Fairy's senses would not be wrong. However, Northern Fairy Yuan's performance was too perfect. Even if she wanted to deal with him, she did not show any hostility. Her tolerance. Lin Feng admired her. However, a fox's tail could not be hidden forever. There would be a time when it would be exposed, just like now. She might even expose her hidden intentions. Northern Fairy Yuan's zither music was very pleasant to the ears, and Lin Feng could not help but marvel at it. The zither music ended. The dancers stopped as well. The northern immortal garden waved at the dancers. The dozen or so dancers quickly retreated. "Young master, what do you think of the zither music just now?" Northern Fairy Yuan asked with a smile. Lin Feng said, "It was sweet and melodious. It made me feel as if I was in a charming environment with a small bridge and a bamboo forest. I also saw a beautiful fairy standing on the bridge. She looked like a fairy who had descended from the 9 heavens. She smiled at me." "Young master, do you still remember what that fairy looked like?" Northern Fairy Yuan asked with a smile. She was so far away, yet so close. Lin Feng looked at Northern Fairy Yuan. Northern Fairy Yuan smiled and said, "Young master, you only know how to make me happy. How can I compare to a fairy in your artistic conception?" Lin Feng smiled and said, "Fairy, you don't have to be so modest. Your beauty is enough to shock the world. Although I have never seen a fairy from the immortal world, I believe that there are very few fairies who are as beautiful as you." Northern Fairy Yuan said, "Young master, you're praising me so well. Could it be that you're attracted to me?" Lin Feng smiled and said, "My ambition is to cultivate. I'm not interested in romantic relationships, so I'm sorry to disappoint you." Lin Feng could not help but blush when he said such untrue words. It seemed that he was not thick-skinned enough. He should have trained with Du Zhu more. Northern Fairy Yuan sighed and said, "There are many beautiful sceneries on the path of cultivation. Young master, you can stop and admire them. Life is not just about cultivation. There are many things to do." Lin Feng smiled and said, "But I'm interested in cultivation. Other things can hardly arouse my interest." Bei Xianyuan looked even more sad. People who didn't know better would have thought that Lin Feng and Bei Xianyuan were in love. Moreover, Northern Fairy Yuan's "Young master, you have truly hurt this servant's heart," Northern Fairy Yuan said with tears in her eyes. "Continue. Keep acting." Lin Feng laughed coldly in his heart. He did not believe Northern Fairy Yuan's pitiful expression at all. Women were born actresses. This saying was not false at all. Of course, Lin Feng did not express his thoughts. He had always been calm and collected. He did not appear too distant from Northern Fairy Yuan, but he also did not appear too close to her. "I don't have the fortune to enjoy the grace of a beauty. I can only reject Fairy Yuan's kind intentions. I hope Fairy Yuan will be able to find a good home in the future," Lin Feng said. Northern Fairy Yuan rolled her eyes at Lin Feng and said, "The future is long. Who knows how things will develop in the future? Who knows? Maybe we'll be able to work together in the future." Lin Feng smiled and said, "If that day really comes, I will remember the conversation between you and me today. I will definitely remember it." After a pause, Lin Feng said, "Fairy Yuan, you said you knew that black-robed cultivator. Can you tell me who he is?" Northern Fairy Yuan said. That black-robed cultivator is not simple. He's from the Demon Severing Sect. Demon Severing Sect? What sect is that? Asked Lin Feng. He was surprised. Northern Fairy Yuan said, the Demon Severing Sect is a very ancient sect. This sect has a unique trait, which is that it only accepts one disciple in each generation. Lin Feng said in surprise, there's actually a sect like that? Aren't they afraid of losing their legacy? Northern Fairy Yuan said, some of the older members of the Demon Severing Sect are still alive, so there's no need to worry about losing their legacy. If any of their disciples are killed, they can just find a new successor. Could that black-robed cultivator be the successor of the Demon Severing Sect's younger generation? Lin Feng could not help but ask. That person's methods were terrifying. Lin Feng's heart was pounding. Now that he thought about it, Lin Feng was extremely scared of that person. This sect is too mysterious, so outsiders don't know much about them. However, I do know that that person shouldn't be the successor of the younger generation. Northern Fairy Yuan said. Why do you say that? Lin Feng asked. About 7 or 8 years ago, the Severing Demon Sect was looking for a new generation of disciples. Usually, these disciples are 5 or 6 years old and have just started cultivating. Although they are still young, they are in the beginning stage. This stage is often very important. There is a saying that goes, victory at the starting line. Therefore, the disciples of the Severing Demon Sect are raised from a young age. If the Severing Demon Sect had found a new disciple 7 or 8 years ago, the current disciple of the Severing Demon Sect would be 13 or 14 years old, not that black-robed cultivator. Northern Fairy Yuan said. That makes sense. Lin Feng nodded. Northern Fairy Yuan continued. You took the Emperor Archaic's egg. Obviously that black-robed cultivator is very unwilling to accept it, so you have to be careful. The Demon Severing Sect is very terrifying. As a demonic sect, their inheritances are the best. Apart from that, they're also very good at rearing insects. It's said that they're also very good at refining all kinds of poisons. Lin Feng said, you have to be careful of that person. Thank you for the warning, Fairy Yuan. Northern Fairy Yuan smiled. We're already so familiar with each other. You don't have to be so polite. Actually, I invited you here because I need your help with something else. Oh, what is it? Lin Feng asked calmly. He knew that Northern Fairy Yuan's foxtail was about to be exposed. She had bad intentions towards him. But how could it be so easy to get rid of him? She needed to create an opportunity for her to make a move. It's like this. I obtained a relic from the Moon Palace Fairy. This relic hides a huge secret. It vaguely leads me to a secret place. I know that you're proficient in formations, so I wanted to invite you to accompany me. Northern Fairy Yuan smiled. The goddess of the Northern Immortal Garden said with a smile. Her tone was filled with a hint of pleading. Her pitiful look was truly pitiful. Chapter 2274. Finding the secret area that the Moon Palace Fairy's relic led her to was a lie. She wanted to scheme against him. Of course, what the Northern Fairy Yuan said could also be true. First, he had to find the secret area that the Moon Palace Fairy's relic led him to. After that, he would think of a way to get rid of him. Lin Feng said, Of course, but I have some matters to attend to, so I can't leave for now. I'm afraid it'll be some time before I can accompany you. The Northern Fairy Yuan smiled. As long as you can accompany me, I'm willing to wait for you at any time. The Northern Fairy Yuan knelt in front of Lin Feng and poured some wine for Lin Feng. Please have some wine, sir. The Northern Fairy Yuan said sweetly, Thank you, Fairy Yuan. Lin Feng downed the wine in his cup. He didn't stay at the Northern Fairy Yuan for too long. After discussing the matter, Lin Feng left. That woman knows how to endure. It seems that we have to be on guard against her. If we really go to that secret area, we have to be on our guard. The Demon Lord said Lin Feng. I'll be careful. I want to see which influential group the Northern Xian Yuan belongs to. Now that I think about it, the Northern Xian Yuan woman is really good at plotting against people. When I first met her, I had a good impression of her, but I didn't think she would set me up for such a long time. She plotted against me for such a long time. If you hadn't been able to read her mind, I would have been killed, and I wouldn't even know how I died. Lin Feng couldn't help but laugh coldly. The Demon Lord said, the human heart is sinister. That's how the world is. When Lin Feng went back to his room, the poison ancestor, the evil Zun Saint, and Little Fairy hadn't gone to bed yet. When they saw Lin Feng, the poison ancestor smiled. What a beautiful night. How come you came back so quickly? Wouldn't you be letting down the beauty of the moon? Lin Feng pursed his lips. What else could I do? Are we going to spend the night there? Du Zhu smiled and said, looks like the other party didn't keep you here, so you have to return in disappointment. Lin Feng said, who said you didn't ask me to stay? It's just that I'm a gentleman, not a casual person. Little Fairy asked, what did that bad woman say to Big Brother Feng? Lin Feng said, she wants me to follow her to a secret place to explore. I guess she wants to attack me in that secret place. Big Brother Feng can reject her, Little Fairy said. Lin Feng said, I promised her. Little Fairy asked in confusion. Since Big Brother Feng already guessed that she was going to make a move in that secret area, why did Big Brother Feng still agree to her request? Isn't that the same as putting yourself in danger? Lin Feng replied, because I want to know who this woman has been plotting against me for such a long time. I want to know who is behind her. Little Fairy nodded her head. Although she was naive, she understood the meaning behind Lin Feng's words. In the next few days, Lin Feng went to the insect market several times, but he couldn't find the insect materials he wanted. Little Fairy, on the other hand, had bought some insect eggs. She wanted to cultivate a batch of insects. Big Brother Feng, I have to go. One day, Little Fairy said to Lin Feng. Where are you going? Lin Feng asked. I want to go to the ancient demon continent because my roots are there, Little Fairy said. Ancient demon continent, one of the 9 provinces. It was the main base of the 9 provinces' Yao clan. As for Little Fairy, she was born from the Green Lotus. From a certain perspective, she could indeed be considered a demon. Now, Little Fairy was going to the ancient demon continent to find her roots. That was reasonable. Lin Feng was reluctant to part with Little Fairy. Little Fairy waved her hand and smiled sweetly. Goodbye, Big Brother Feng. When we meet again, Big Brother Feng has to make a lot of delicious food for you. Lin Feng smiled. I guarantee you'll be very satisfied. After Lin Feng sent Little Fairy off, he decided to leave with Du Zhu, the heretic sovereign holy sage, and the next day, when they returned to their residence, they saw that the street was very crowded. It was so crowded that not even a drop of water could trickle through. The 3 of them walked over. After asking around, they learned that an old immortal had appeared in the ancient capital of the Dark Sea. This old immortal was not simple. He was good at divination. Many people who sought out this old immortal for divination had their wishes come true. It was said that even the imperial family of the Dark Sea divine nation had sought out this old immortal for divination. Could it be that we met an expert? Lin Feng couldn't help but mutter. The 8 trigrams technique, the 9 palaces technique. Of course, there were many other techniques. They could be used to divine many things. This old immortal seemed to be proficient in these arts. Divine, when will I become an emperor? Make way, make way, Poison Ancestor yelled loudly, and then began to squeeze his way in. I want to ask, when will I become an immortal? Stop daydreaming. Many people curled their lips and said, You can't become an immortal, but I'll become an emperor sooner or later. Duzu said confidently, Your skin is thicker than the city walls. Many people curled their lips and said, The old immortal's divination can't be done for free. The rules are written here. If you want to seek out the old immortal for divination, you have to show enough sincerity. There's no free lunch in this world. A middle-aged cultivator stood in front of a shop and said, There was a signboard in front of the shop. The signboard was filled with words. Divination of marriage, 100,000 origin crystals. Divination of fate, 1,000,000 origin crystals. Divination of the future, 10,000,000 origin crystals. Duzu read the contents of the signboard. F***CK. Isn't this too expensive? Is he a scammer? Duzu shouted, no matter how he looked at it. He looked like a scammer. The middle-aged cultivator immediately glanced at Duzu and said, Friend, you can eat whatever you want, but you can't speak carelessly. Who doesn't know about the old immortal's abilities? You're insulting the intelligence of everyone here by doubting the old immortal. The middle-aged man was good at stirring up the atmosphere. The Poison Ancestor immediately felt the vicious gazes from all around him land on him. Duzu smiled awkwardly and said, I'm not doubting the old immortal. I'm just lamenting. The middle-aged cultivator said, Since the old immortal dares to charge such a high price, it proves that he's really capable. Otherwise, he wouldn't dare to scam people here. Lin Feng agreed with the middle-aged cultivator's words. Could there really be such a powerful divination technique? Could he ask the old immortal to divine Duguya's whereabouts? Are you guys divination or not? If not, hurry up and make way. Don't block the people behind you, the middle-aged cultivator said. Fortune-telling, of course, said Lin Feng, walking into the shop. Duzu and the heretic dominator sage followed him in. The moment they entered, they saw the old immortal. The corner of Lin Feng's mouth twitched. He rolled his eyes and said irritably, Why are you here? Chapter 2275. Kid, why are you here? You're still alive? The old man could not help but jump when he saw Lin Feng. This old immortal was none other than Grandpa Martin, the old swindler that Lin Feng had met in the forbidden grounds of Tianhuang. You're not dead yet, so how can I die? Lin Feng said indifferently. Grandpa Martin rolled his eyes and said, Grandpa Martin has a long life ahead of him. Lin Feng said, You're going to swagger around like this? Didn't someone capture you and make you into a mink coat? Grandpa Martin put his hands behind his back and said calmly, Grandpa Martin is an old immortal. Who dares to offend an old immortal? Lin Feng could not help but roll his eyes. Old immortal. He was more like a swindler. Grandpa Martin glanced at Lin Feng and said, Your glabella is dark. I'm afraid a bloody calamity is about to befall you. Don't you have anything good to say? Lin Feng said, unhappily. Grandpa Martin said meaningfully, Honest advice grates on the ear. Good medicine tastes bitter. Lin Feng narrowed his eyes and carefully sized up Grandpa Martin. Sometimes, Lin Feng even felt that Grandpa Martin, this old swindler, had some extraordinary abilities. Divination might not be reliable. However, Grandpa Martin had stayed in the forbidden area of Heaven Wasteland for such a long time. Without a bit of strength, it was impossible for him to stay in there for so long without dying. Of course, the most important thing was that Grandpa Martin knew a lot of secrets. Lin Feng said, Since you're an old immortal, why don't you do a divination for me? Grandpa Martin immediately grinned. He stretched out his paw and patted a sign beside the table, saying, "We may be close, but business is business. If you want a divination, everything has a price. Of course, as an old friend, I can give you a 20% discount." Lin Feng said, "I want to find someone." Grandpa Martin said, "Find someone for 8 million, 20% discount, 6 for million." Lin Feng took out 6 for million origin crystals and handed them to Grandpa Martin. For other people, 6,400,000 was an incredible amount of wealth, but for Lin Feng, it was just a drop in the ocean. If he could really obtain information about Duguya, he would be willing to pay 4 million. Even if it was 64 million, it was still worth it. However, Lin Feng did not have confidence in Grandpa Martin, this old swindler, because he really could not see through Grandpa Martin. Previously, Lin Feng's impression of Grandpa Martin was that it liked to brag. Anyway, as long as he had the time, he would brag about how awesome he was. However, in reality, Lin Feng was able to send Grandpa Martin flying with a single palm strike. As for whether Grandpa Martin was outstanding in other aspects, Lin Feng was not sure. After all, he was not very familiar with Grandpa Martin. If you want to find out the whereabouts of someone, write their name on a piece of paper for me. Grandpa Martin said. Lin Feng wrote Duguya's name on a piece of paper and handed it to Grandpa Martin. Grandpa Martin crumpled the piece of paper with Duguya's name on it into a ball and threw it into a black jade tube. Then it released a ball of flame. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. The flame burned. The ball of paper turned into ashes in the blink of an eye. Urgent as the law commands, Grandpa Martin muttered mysteriously, "Open the heavens, I—" His paw tapped on the jade tube. Then he opened his eyes wide and looked at the jade tube. Grandpa Martin seemed to be very serious. It was as if he really did have some powerful abilities. "How is it?" Lin Feng asked. Grandpa Martin grinned and said, "I've already done my calculations. You can rest assured that the Duguya you're looking for is fine. He won't die." Lin Feng could not help but roll his eyes and say, "I'm asking you where he is. Can you not give me an irrelevant answer?" Grandpa Martin smiled embarrassedly and said, "He is in the land of the 9 prefectures." Lin Feng rubbed his forehead. He already knew that Grandpa Martin was unreliable. Was this really a divination? Lin Feng curled his lips and said, "Fine, take that 6,400,000 gold coins as my treat." Grandpa Martin grinned and said, "Kid, you're quite generous. Now that we're done with the divination, shouldn't we talk about the temple?" Back then, Grandpa Martin had taught Lin Feng how to refine the 5-dragon wheel, and Lin Feng had promised to build a few temples for Grandpa Martin to worship him. Who knew that Grandpa Martin, a swindler, would see the divine servants appear? Afraid of getting Lin Feng into trouble, he did not warn Lin Feng and quietly slipped away. After Grandpa Martin slipped away, Lin Feng was blocked by the divine servants. Thus, Lin Feng had always thought that Grandpa Martin was a swindler. Grandpa Martin was just like his cheap master. However, since Lin Feng had promised Grandpa Martin to help him build a temple, he would not go back on his word. He said, "Once I return to the Dragon Gate, I'll help you with this matter." Grandpa Martin immediately became happy and said with a smile, "Kid, just based on the fact that you keep your word, Grandpa Martin thinks highly of you. You will definitely have a bright future." Ha ha ha. Thank you for your praise. I still have things to do, so let's part ways here. Lin Feng said, "Brat, you have water in your 5 elements. Too much water is a disaster. That's why there's a bloody disaster. If you listen to me, I advise you to leave the Netherworld Sea as soon as possible. Otherwise, you'll be in big trouble." Grandpa Martin said, "Are you telling the truth? You're not tricking me?" Lin Feng looked at Grandpa Martin seriously. Look at how scared you are. Grandpa Martin was just joking with you. Don't forget to build a temple for Grandpa Martin. Grandpa Martin grinned. Lin Feng couldn't be bothered with Grandpa Martin anymore. He left with Du Zhu and the heretic sovereign sage. TSK. This kid's money is really easy to earn. Grandpa Martin grinned. The next day, Lin Feng, Du Zhu, and the heretic sovereign sage left the Netherworld Sea Divine Kingdom. They boarded the ancient starship Xianyuan and headed to Thunder Dragon Island. This was the Snake Empress headquarters. He wondered how the Snake Empress had been doing all these years. 5 days later, Lin Feng saw Thunder Dragon Island from afar. The surrounding 30 li of Thunder Dragon Island was covered in lightning. Thick bolts of lightning swam through the void. Even the Thunder Dragon Island was sealed by lightning. Many cultivators were patrolling around Thunder Dragon Island. Thunder Dragon Island's defenses were very tight. Snake Empress, why aren't you coming out to see me? Lin Feng sent out his divine will. The Snake Empress, who was in seclusion, suddenly opened her eyes. Its master's voice. The Snake Empress opened her eyes, revealing an extremely shocked expression. She quickly flew out of her seclusion room. Greetings, Island Lord. Seeing the Snake Empress come out of seclusion, many cultivators on Thunder Dragon Island bowed to her. The Snake Empress didn't care about them and quickly flew out. Island Lord, why are you in such a hurry? Where are you going? Many people looked at each other in dismay. They followed the Snake Empress and flew out of the island. Chapter 2276. When the Snake Empress arrived outside the Thunder Dragon Island and saw a figure floating in the void in the distance, she immediately revealed a pleasantly surprised expression. She quickly flew towards Lin Feng. She hurriedly bowed to Lin Feng. Master! When the other people on the Thunder Dragon Island heard how the Snake Empress addressed Lin Feng, they were all dumbfounded. The Snake Empress actually called that young cultivator her master? How was this possible? The famous Snake Empress was actually someone else's servant? This made everyone feel a sense of disbelief. Get up, Lin Feng said. Thank you, master. The Snake Empress responded and got up. It's been hard on you to manage the forces in the Netherworld Sea all these years. Lin Feng said, It's Qin Er's fortune to be able to share master's burden. The Snake Empress said, Qin Er was the Snake Empress's name, and not many people knew about it. As the Snake Empress's master, Lin Feng naturally knew about it. All right, let's go back to the Thunder Dragon Island to take a look. Lin Feng said, Master, please. The Snake Empress hurriedly said, and then accompanied Lin Feng as they flew towards the Thunder Dragon Island. Yang Zhong, gather everyone above the level of Hall Master to the main hall. The Snake Empress said to a middle-aged cultivator. Yes, the middle-aged cultivator called Yang Zhong responded. Lin Feng arrived at the main hall accompanied by the Snake Empress. He sat on the main seat while the Snake Empress stood beside Lin Feng. Lin Feng said with a smile, It seems like your harvest is not small. You actually broke through to the giant god realm. The Snake Empress said, It's all thanks to the many natural treasures that Master left behind that I was able to break through. You can't break through to the giant god realm just by relying on natural treasures. The reason you can break through is because your comprehension is strong enough. This is the result of your own hard work. Lin Feng said. At this time, people entered the hall one after another. Everyone was slightly stunned when they saw Lin Feng. In particular, the island master, the Snake Empress, was now standing beside Lin Feng as if she was Lin Feng's maid. This caused everyone to feel shocked and moved. He couldn't believe what he was seeing. Lin Feng was such a young cultivator. So how could he make the Snake Empress act so servile. Now that everyone is here, let me introduce the young master beside me. The man beside me is also my master. He's the disciple of Lord Turtle of the Reincarnation Immortal Sect and the sect leader of the Dragon Gate. He holds an army of 10 million cultivators. The Snake Queen began to introduce Lin Feng. In recent years, Lin Feng's reputation had gradually risen. It wasn't difficult for the Snake Empress to find out about Lin Feng's whereabouts. When he heard that the young master in front of him was Lin Feng, who had recently been the talk of the town, everyone was quite surprised. However, many people frowned slightly and didn't take Lin Feng seriously, apart from the fact that he was the disciple of Lord Turtle, who was worth paying special attention to. As for the other identities, they dismissed them with a smile. For example, they didn't take Lin Feng's identity as the sect leader of the Dragon Gate seriously. To many people, Lin Feng's position as the sect leader of the Dragon Gate was just a puppet supported by the Reincarnation Immortal Sect. As for why Lin Feng was the Snake Queen's master, many people guessed that it might be because Lord Turtle, who was behind Lin Feng, suppressed the Snake Queen and forced her to recognize Lin Feng as her master. If it was Lin Feng who suppressed the Snake Queen, no one believed that. After all, Lin Feng was too young and pitifully weak in front of the Snake Queen. Come and greet Lin Gongzi. The Snake Queen's expression darkened. When she saw that no one had any reaction, Yang Zhong hurriedly bowed to Lin Feng and said, "Subordinate Yang Zhong greets Lin Gongzi." Lin Feng had some impression of this Yang Zhong. Previously, the Snake Queen had ordered this person to gather everyone. This person was very likely the Snake Queen's confidant. After Yang Zhong bowed to Lin Feng, then more than 10 cultivators bowed to Lin Feng. However, there were still more than 20 people who stood still and didn't move. What is the meaning of this? The Snake Queen's expression turned ugly. A white-robed cultivator said, "Island Lord, we are here to seek refuge with you, not this brat." The cultivator who spoke looked to be in his 30s. He was called the Thousand-Eyed Evil Lord and was a cultivator of the Thousand-Eyed clan. Moreover, his cultivation level was even higher than the Snake Queen's. The Snake Queen was now at the first firmament of the giant god realm. The Thousand-Eyed Evil Lord was at the third firmament of the giant god realm. The Thousand-Eyed Evil Lord had sought refuge with the Snake Queen because he had always coveted her beauty. He wanted to subdue the Snake Queen. That was why he sought refuge with the Snake Queen. After joining the Lightning Dragon Island, the Thousand-Eyed Evil Lord had gathered many experts because of his powerful cultivation level. He had expressed his intentions to the Snake Queen several times, but he had been rejected by the Snake Queen. Now that Lin Feng had appeared, the Thousand-Eyed Evil Lord was not only unwilling to accept Lin Feng, but he also felt a strong sense of jealousy towards Lin Feng. Since Lin Feng was the Snake Queen's master, didn't that mean that the Snake Queen had already served him? Thinking of this, the Thousand-Eyed Evil Lord had the urge to tear Lin Feng apart. Fortunately, he was still trying his best to control himself. Thousand-Eyed Evil Lord, don't go overboard. The Snake Queen looked at the Thousand-Eyed Evil Lord with an ugly expression. At this moment, Lin Feng waved his hand, indicating for the Snake Queen to stop talking. Then Lin Feng stood up. He looked at the Thousand-Eyed Evil Lord and said, "It seems that you are not convinced by me." The Thousand-Eyed Evil Lord looked at Lin Feng with contempt and said, "You should have some self-awareness." Lin Feng said indifferently, "It seems that you are very confident in your cultivation level. At the very least, suppressing you will be as easy as flipping my hand." The Thousand-Eyed Evil Lord looked at Lin Feng with contempt. "Who else is not convinced by me?" Lin Feng glanced coldly at the people below. The group of cultivators standing beside the Thousand-Eyed Evil Lord looked at each other. Although they did not say anything, they did not distance themselves from the thousand-eyed evil Lord. Clearly, their actions had made their stance clear. Lin Feng said, "All right, since you are not convinced by me, I will give you a chance. I will take 7 steps. If you can stand still, you can continue to stay. Otherwise, you can leave the Lightning Dragon Island. Because you people lack something called loyalty." Humph! Who do you think you are? How dare you be so arrogant? The group of cultivators could not help but be angered by Lin Feng's contempt. Lin Feng's expression was indifferent as he took a step forward. He did not even release his qi. He only released his aura. Thump, 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 thump. The cultivators could not withstand Lin Feng's aura. They all knelt on the ground. When Lin Feng took 3 steps, only the thousand-eyed evil lord remained kneeling. Even though the thousand-eyed evil lord was at the 3rd layer of the giant god realm, his face was turning paler and paler. "Kneel!" Lin Feng shouted. He took 3 steps forward. Thump! The thousand-eyed evil lord could no longer withstand the powerful aura emitted from Lin Feng's body and knelt on the ground. Chapter 2277. How is this possible? How is this possible? This can't be real. It can't be real. The thousand-eyed evil lord roared hysterically. He couldn't accept what was happening before him. He was a giant god realm 3rd heaven cultivator. With such a cultivation, he could be considered an overlord even in the entire 9 prefectures. But now, in front of Lin Feng, he couldn't even withstand the aura emitted by Lin Feng. How could the thousand-eyed evil lord accept this? To the thousand-eyed evil lord, this was a deep blow that made him feel endless humiliation. He's too strong. Everyone else was dumbfounded. Even the Snake Queen looked extremely shocked at this moment. She knew that Lin Feng had extraordinary means, especially after so many years. She knew that his cultivation must have improved by leaps and bounds. Even so, in the Snake Queen's opinion, it was already not easy for Lin Feng to contend with the thousand-eyed evil lord. How could he suppress the thousand-eyed evil lord with just the aura emitted from his body? This was too unbelievable. It was shocking and moving. Many people couldn't believe what they were seeing, including the Snake Queen. They felt like they were in a dream. As a subordinate, the most important quality is loyalty. But all of you lack loyalty. Lightning Dragon Island won't keep people like you. Get lost. Lin Feng waved his right hand. Bang, bang, bang. More than 20 people were sent flying by him. These people were obviously close to the thousand-eyed evil lord, and they were the upper echelons of Lightning Dragon Island. If they joined forces, wouldn't they be able to make the Snake Queen a mere figurehead? Lin Feng guessed that the Snake Queen wouldn't be able to fully control Lightning Dragon Island. Humph! This place won't keep me, but there will be a place for me. Let's go. The thousand-eyed evil lord looked coldly at Lin Feng, then led his group away. Young Master's strength is unparalleled, and he is wise and mighty. Yang Zhong and the others quickly knelt on the ground and kowtowed to Lin Feng. Previously, they had bowed to Lin Feng because of the Snake Queen, but now they were completely convinced of Lin Feng's strength. Lin Feng's display of strength had deeply shocked them. Said Lin Feng, "Everybody stand up. Thank you, young master." Yang Zhong and the others stood up. Lin Feng asked, "What's the situation like on Lightning Dragon Island now?" Snake Empress said, "Currently, Lightning Dragon Island has a total of 530,000 cultivators. These cultivators are basically all in the true god realm, the elites of the elites. A small portion of them are in the heavenly god realm. The only giant god realm cultivators are me and the thousand-eyed evil lord. Now that the thousand-eyed evil lord has been chased away by Master, there is only me the giant God Realm cultivator left. That's right. You managed to recruit so many strong cultivators in such a short time, praised Lin Feng. The Snake Queen revealed a beautiful smile and said, "It is Qin Er's honor to be able to share Master's burden." That night, Lightning Dragon Island held a celebratory feast to welcome Lin Feng. News of what had happened during the day also spread among the Lightning Dragon Island's cultivators. Everyone knew that an extremely terrifying expert had come to Lightning Dragon Island. Even an expert as powerful as the thousand-eyed evil lord was as weak as an ant in front of him. Currently, the Lightning Dragon Island's cultivators were excitedly discussing this matter. They had joined Lightning Dragon Island because they wanted to fight for a good future. Naturally, they hoped that Lightning Dragon Island had a powerful backer. Leaning against a big tree was the best way to enjoy the shade. After the feast ended, Lin Feng went to the sealed area in the depths of the island. The seal had already been closed. This seal had been added by the Celestial Master Path's ancestor, and it was connected to the Forbidden God world. Back then, when he had opened the seal, the 5 Yazis and Songming Mountain's 5 devils had escaped. However, he did not know if there were any other living beings that had escaped from the Forbidden God world. The next few days passed by in a carefree manner. During the day, Lin Feng would help strengthen the Lightning Dragon Island's restrictions. At night, he would be accompanied by a peerless beauty, the Snake Queen. Naturally, they would enjoy the beautiful moonlight. Rumble! Rumble! On this day, waves of terrifying fluctuations surged from afar. Ancient warships were sailing towards Lightning Dragon Island. There were a total of 100 ancient warships. There were 10,000 cultivators on each ancient warship. The other party had a total of 1 million cultivators. Snake Queen, why aren't you coming out to see me? At this moment, a cold voice was transmitted to Lightning Dragon Island. Lin Feng hovered in midair and saw the huge fleet in the sea. He looked at the Snake Queen and asked, "Who are these people?" "They are from Devil Swarm Island. The cultivator leading them is called Young Master Wu Hen. He is the son of Devil Swarm Island's island master," the Snake Queen said. "Devil Swarm Island? When did such a power appear in the Nether Sea?" Lin Feng asked in astonishment. There were many powers in the Nether Sea, but most of them were small. Since Devil Swarm Island could mobilize so many warships and cultivator armies, it was obvious that they were a terrifying power. Such a power should not be so unknown. Lin Feng had stayed in the Nether Sea for a period of time, but he had never heard of Devil Swarm Island. The Devil's Islands is a force that has just prospered in recent years. This force has gathered a large number of experts in a short period of time. Moreover, these people are simply unscrupulous. They are incomparably ferocious. They even dared to rob the fleets of the Dark Sea Divine Nation and the Mermaid race. The Nether Sea Divine Kingdom and the Merfolk race once mobilized their armies to wipe out Devil Swarm Island. However, Devil Swarm Island was much stronger than they had imagined. Therefore, both the Nether Sea Divine Kingdom and the Merfolk race failed. Instead, Devil Swarm Island's reputation grew. Now, Devil Swarm Island has become a giant that can contend with the Nether Sea Divine Kingdom and the Merfolk race. Lin Feng said, "Who is backing Devil Swarm Island? If there is no one backing them, it won't be easy to establish such a huge power." "His honor is Devil Swarm Island's backer," said the Snake Queen. "It's him." Lin Feng frowned slightly. He had seen his honor before. He knew how terrifying his honor was, but Lin Feng did not expect his honor to be Devil Swarm Island's backer. Why did young Master Wu Hen come to Lightning Dragon Island? Lin Feng asked. "He wants to subdue Lightning Dragon Island," said the Snake Queen. Lin Feng nodded. "Snake Queen, this young master's patience is limited. If you don't know what's good for you, this young master will have no choice but to attack Lightning Dragon Island. At this moment, young Master Wu Hen's voice sounded again. There was a strong sense of threat in his voice. "Let's go meet this person," said Lin Feng as he took the lead and flew out. The Snake Queen Du Zhu and the heretic Reverend Saint followed closely behind and flew out of the island. Chapter 2278. Lin Feng and the others arrived outside the Thunder Dragon Island. From a distance, Lin Feng saw young Master Wu Hen. This person looked to be in his 30s. He was rather handsome, but his complexion was somewhat pale. His entire person gave off a cold and unkind feeling. Young Master Wu Hen's eyes were fixed on the Snake Queen. That pair of cold eyes revealed an incomparably fiery gaze. "Snake Queen, I haven't seen you for a while, but you've become even more charming." This young island master has always known how to take care of women. If it wasn't for you, this young island master would have already attacked the Thunder Dragon Island. So you'd better be tactful and obediently become this young island master's 99th concubine. Moreover, you should also obediently offer the several 100,000 cultivator army of the Thunder Dragon Island to this young island master. This way, this young island master will dote on you even more. If you don't know what's good for you, this young island master can give an order to capture the Thunder Dragon Island. The cultivator army of the Thunder Dragon Island will eventually be taken over by this young island master. You don't even have the qualifications to be this young island master's concubine. You'll become the lowest concubine in the world, young Master Wu Hen said sinisterly. "You're going too far." The Snake Queen's face turned ashen. If an ordinary person dared to speak to her like this, she would have already taken action. However, the power behind this young Master Wu Hen was too great. She didn't dare to offend him. If a fight really broke out, the Thunder Dragon Island wouldn't be a match for the Devil Pack Islands. It's early in the morning to hear a male dog barking in heat. What a bummer. Scram back to where you came from. Otherwise, we can only close the door and beat the dog. Lin Feng sneered. This young master, Wu Hen, dared to covet his woman. He was simply courting death. Originally, young Master Wu Hen didn't notice Lin Feng. It wasn't until Lin Feng spoke that he looked at Lin Feng. It was a pair of cold eyes that made one's heart turn cold. They were filled with dense killing intent. "Kid, who do you think you are? How dare you humiliate this young island master? I think you don't want to live anymore." Young Master Wu Hen's expression was indifferent, revealing a biting, cold-killing intent. Now that he was the young master of the myriad devil islands, young Master Wu Hen could be said to be complacent and aloof. Only he could humiliate others. Who dared to humiliate him? That would be courting death. Lin Feng revealed a mocking expression. "Even a lowly character like you dares to be so presumptuous in front of me. Slap yourself 10 times, and I'll spare your life. Otherwise, I'll make sure you die today." Courting death. Dense killing intent burst out from young Master Wu Hen's eyes. He stepped out of the ancient ship. Then he looked at Lin Feng coldly and said, "Little boy, don't be stupid. Get out here. Within 3 moves, this young master will take your dog life." "Young island master, let us do it. Your body is precious. There's no need to be angry with such lowly people." Immediately, many experts said. These experts from the Devil's Swarm Island were clearly worried that young Master Wu Hen would have an accident. If such a thing really happened, they would also be punished when they returned to the Islands of Devils. They were very clear about the punishment of the Devil's Swarm Island. It was simply a fate worse than death. When young Master Wu Hen heard these people's dissuasion, his face turned incomparably gloomy. "Do you think I'm not a match for that brat?" young Master Wu Hen said with a gloomy expression. Young Master Wu Hin had cultivated for 37,500 years. His talent was astonishing. Therefore, he was currently at the 5th heavenly layer of the giant god realm. Although they could not sense Lin Feng's cultivation, they could sense Lin Feng's life aura. Lin Feng's life aura was simply too young. Clearly, he had not cultivated for many years. One could conceal one's cultivation through some special means, preventing others from probing. However, one's life aura could not be concealed. Such a young cultivator, presumably, he did not have much cultivation. Thinking of this, the experts from the Devil's Swarm Island felt somewhat relieved. They did not continue to dissuade young Master Wu Hin. "Brat, why aren't you coming out and fighting with me? Are you afraid? If you are, then kneel on the ground and kowtow to me for mercy." Young Master Wu Hin sneered as he looked at Lin Feng. Lin Feng pursed his lips and said, "I disdain to make a move. Do you think a trash like you is worthy of me making a move? You're simply dirtying my hands." This brat is too arrogant. The cultivators from the Devil's Swarm Island could not help but mutter. They had never seen someone as arrogant as Lin Feng. However, since Lin Feng did not accept the challenge, everyone felt that Lin Feng might just be shooting his mouth off. His mouth was powerful, but in reality, he did not have much ability. The cultivators from the Lightning Dragon Island were also muttering. Everyone had already guessed that Lin Feng was that mysterious expert. However, Lin Feng's arrogance had clearly exceeded everyone's expectations. Moreover, Lin Feng was still so young. Many people could not help but mutter, could the rumors about that mysterious expert be false? "Brat, if you don't dare to accept the challenge, then just say it. Why put on an act?" Young Master Wu Hin sneered. "It's not that I don't dare to accept the challenge, but that I disdain it. If I were to make a move, I would only need one move to kill you." Lin Feng raised a finger as he spoke. Many people had bitter smiles on their faces. Young Master Wu Hin was a 5th celestial stage giant god. Yet, this brat actually said that he would only need one move to kill young Master Wu Hin. This bragging was a little too much. "Please, can you stop bragging?" Many people wailed inwardly. Young Master Wu Hin was so angry that he laughed and said, "Fine, I want to see how you're going to kill me in one move." Lin Feng said, "I really disdain to make a move. Why didn't you listen to me? However, since you're so determined to throw away your life, I can only fulfill your wish." After saying that, Lin Feng walked toward young Master Wu Hin. This brat is so good at bragging. If he claims to be second in the world, no one would dare to claim to be first. Now, he's probably going to reveal his true colors. Do you guys think that this brat will be killed by the young master in one move? That's very possible. The cultivators of the Devil Islands discussed fervently. Is that young master really capable, or is he just bragging? Isn't he a little too young? I feel like he's just bragging. I also feel like he's just bragging. Young Master Wu Hin is a 5th celestial stage giant god. If that young master is just bragging, won't he be killed by young Master Wu Hin in one move? The cultivators of the Lightning Dragon Islands discussed fervently. Everyone looked at Lin Feng and young Master Wu Hin. Everyone was looking forward to this battle. Boom! Young Master Wu Hin's body emitted a terrifying aura. When the aura spread out, many cultivators' faces turned as pale as paper. Isn't this young Master Wu Hin too strong? His cultivation is very likely beyond the 5th celestial stage. Many people exclaimed. Chapter 2279. Young Master Wu Hin's aura was so terrifying that it was suffocating. Before he even made a move, he had already shocked the hearts of the surrounding cultivators, giving them a feeling that they could not resist. Young Master Wu Hin's black hair fluttered in the wind, making him look like a demon or a god. On his face, there was a look of superiority. My cultivation has already broken through, and I'm only one step away from the 7th layer of the giant god realm. I'm dozens of times stronger than when I was at the 5th layer. Young Master Wu Hen said indifferently, "What? He's that powerful?" Everyone exclaimed. They did not expect young Master Wu Hen to be so powerful. Young Master is too strong. That brat is dead, for sure. That's right. That brat will die miserably. The cultivators of the Devil Islands cried out excitedly. That young master is done for this time. Yeah, young Master Wu Hen's cultivation is too strong. It's simply impossible to resist him. The cultivators of the Thunder Dragon Island had solemn expressions. Duzu curled his lips and said, "Not to mention that he hasn't reached the 7th layer of the giant god realm. Even if he did, so what? In front of young master, he's still an ant." Many people rolled their eyes. Their master knew how to brag. Even their master's guard knew how to brag. Limitless thunderfire art. At this time, young Master Wu Hen made his move. Dense thunderfire energy appeared in his right hand. In his left hand, flame energy appeared. The thunderfire energy and flame energy fused together. They formed a powerful thunderfire energy. The power of lightning and fire fused together, turning into a distorted ball of energy. The thunderfire energy fused together. Waves of destructive energy rippled out from his body. This is a top-rate emperor art. Supposedly, it was created by an imperial monarch realm expert called the Heavenly Emperor of Lightning and Fire. It's simply invincible and invincible. Young Master used this top-notch emperor technique as soon as he arrived. It seems like he wants to kill that brat instantly. That must be his plan. With such a terrifying emperor technique, that brat will definitely die even if he has 9 lives. The cultivators of the Devil Islands discussed in low voices. The way they looked at Lin Feng, it was no different from looking at a dead person. In their opinion, Lin Feng was dead for sure. On the other hand, the cultivators from Thunder Dragon Island wore solemn expressions. After Lin Feng was killed, the cultivator army of the myriad Devil Islands and the cultivator army of the Thunder Dragon Islands were bound to engage in a bloody battle. If Lin Feng was instantly killed, the momentum of the Hell Thunder Dragon Island would be greatly affected. Therefore, the cultivator army of the Thunder Dragon Island was in an extremely disadvantageous situation. Die, brat. Young Master Wu Hen grinned maliciously as he unleashed a peerless attack at Lin Feng. At this moment, Lin Feng was still motionless. "Don't tell me he's scared, silly?" The cultivators of the Devil Islands looked at Lin Feng with sneers. As for young Master Wu Hen, an arrogant expression appeared at the corner of his mouth. In his opinion, Lin Feng would undoubtedly die today. No one could save Lin Feng's life. Just as the terrifying attack was about to reach Lin Feng's body, at this moment, everyone saw Lin Feng finally moved. His movements were very slow, so slow that everyone could clearly see Lin Feng's every move. However, that seemingly slow movement was as fast as lightning when it was condensed into an attack. This was a very strange feeling. Clearly, it was a very slow movement, but at the same time, it gave people a feeling of being struck by lightning. Lin Feng raised his right hand and gently slashed in the air. Buzz! A blade light condensed. That blade light cut through the sky. It directly slashed at young Master Wu Hen. PFFF. The divine ability condensed by young Master Wu Hen was directly torn apart. Impossible. Young Master Wu Hen's originally complacent expression instantly turned into horror as he shouted in disbelief. Feeling the terror of that blade light, young Master Wu Hen did not dare to take it head-on. He frantically retreated, wanting to avoid this terrifying attack. However, he was horrified to discover that no matter how he dodged, he could not avoid this attack. "Quickly, save me!" Young Master Wu Hen roared. "Quickly, save the young master!" Immediately, more than a dozen peak experts rushed toward young Master Wu Hen, wanting to save him. But it was already too late. PFFF. The blade light pierced through young Master Wu Hen's body. Young Master Wu Hen was directly split into two. This. Everyone had an incomparably shocked expression. Young Master Wu Hen had such a powerful cultivation. But he was actually killed in a single move. Just what level was that young master at? Wasn't this too terrifying? The young master is dead. Kill him. Otherwise, we won't be able to answer to the master. A seventh-layer giant god expert bellowed. They knew very well how terrifying the island master was. Young Master Wu Hen was the only son of the master. Now, he had died miserably. These people had an unshirkable responsibility, and when the time came, they would definitely be severely punished. But if they could kill Lin Feng, they would be able to change their situation. Kill! A deep roar was heard. More than 20 experts charged toward Lin Feng. These people were all the upper echelons of the Devil Isle. They were the peak experts of the Devil Isle. Each of them was a giant god expert. Even in a peak force like the Devil Isle, there were only slightly more than 30 of such experts. But now, young Master Wu Hen had brought more than 20 people with him. From this, one could see how much the master of the Devil Isle loved his son. He was afraid that something would happen to young Master Wu Hen, which was why he had sent so many experts to protect him. But in the end, young Master Wu Hen had died in Lin Feng's hands. "Attack!" The Snake Empress shouted, wanting to lead the cultivator army of the Lightning Dragon Isle to reinforce Lin Feng. No matter how strong Lin Feng was, a single person could not contend against more than 20 giant gods, right? At this time, Duzu curled his lips and said, "They're just a bunch of cats and dogs." For the young master, dealing with them is as easy as crushing a group of ants. Everyone, just watch the show. A bunch of cats and dogs? Crushing them is as easy as crushing a group of ants. Everyone looked at each other in dismay. That young master, was he really that terrifying? Then, these people saw a scene that they would never forget for the rest of their lives. They saw him being besieged by more than 20 giant gods. The handsome young master, with shoulder-length black hair, casually stepped out. He used his palm as a saber. He shuttled through the crowd. Saber energy vibrated out one after another. Every blade, aura, that flew out could instantly kill a giant god powerhouse. In a few breaths of time, more than 20 giant god realm powerhouses were all slain. Between heaven and earth, not a sound could be heard. One after another, eyes turned pale with shock as they looked at the handsome young man standing proudly in the void. It was as if stormy waves had been set off in everyone's hearts. Chapter 2280. The combat strength Lin Feng displayed was simply too terrifying. It deeply shocked everyone, causing their expressions to change. "Run!" At this moment, the cultivators on the Devil Island's side finally regained their senses. No one knew who it was, but someone shouted. One after another, the ancient warships quickly changed their direction and fled into the distance. Lin Feng was too terrifying. With so many giant god realm experts killed, the Devil Island side was like a group of dragons without a leader. They had turned into a pile of loose sand and were no longer a threat. Therefore, the cultivators on the Devil Island's side fled in a sorry state. "Kill!" Their roars shook the sky. Naturally, the cultivators on the Lightning Dragon Island would not let the cultivators on the Devil Islands off so easily. At this moment, the cultivators on the Lightning Dragon Island were full of vigor. At the same time, Lin Feng directly activated the grand formation he had set up previously. During the past few days, Lin Feng had strengthened the grand formation on the Lightning Dragon Island. The sea region within a radius of 30 li was enveloped by the grand formation. Powerful ripples shook the void. The formation runes intertwined and sealed the world. The surrounding heaven and earth were completely sealed off. The ancient ships of war were all locked in the formation. We are trapped by the grand formation. Break out with all your might. From the ancient ships of war, the panicked voices of countless cultivators from Fiend Islands could be heard. Over 100 ancient warships shot out a dense number of spirit stone cannons. They attacked the grand formation that sealed the surrounding sea region. However, ordinary spirit stone cannons were unable to break the grand formation set up by Lin Feng. It's over. The grand formation can't be broken. We're dead meat. I don't want to die. The cultivators on the Devil Island's side were filled with despair. In fact, the number of cultivators on the Devil Island's side was close to twice the number of cultivators on the Lightning Dragon Island. However, when two armies clashed, it was never said that one could win with numbers. When two armies clashed, momentum was the most important thing. If one's momentum was strong and worked together, they would be invincible. The morale of the army was slack. Each of them fought for themselves and were utterly defeated. Clearly, the cultivators on the Lightning Dragon Island had a strong momentum and were working together. On the other hand, the cultivators on the Devil Island's side were utterly defeated. Before the battle even started, the cultivators on the Devil Island's side had already lost. Just as the armies were about to clash, a deep roar resounded through the heavens and earth. Devil Island's cultivators, on account of the heavens' kindness, I can spare your lives. However, you must swear an oath to pledge your loyalty to me. When Lin Feng's voice, the cultivators on the Devil Island's side, the cultivators on the Devil Island's side of the Devil Island's side was looking at each other. Soon, someone said loudly, Morong Wuhan is dead. If we go back, we probably won't have a good ending. Instead of going back and being punished, it's better to rely on this young master. We are willing to submit to young master. The cultivators on the Devil Island's side knelt on the ground and swore their loyalty to Lin Feng. However, there was also a part of the cultivators who rebuked these people's actions. They would rather die in battle than submit to Lin Feng. Lin Feng, on the other hand, allowed this part of the cultivators to succeed. With a single order, this part of the cultivators were all killed. In the end, Lin Feng subdued 950,000 cultivators. The cultivators on the Lightning Dragon Island had reached about 5 million Devil Islands. Inside the Primordial Spirit Lamp Hall, the Primordial Spirit Lamps of the young master, Morong Wuhan, and more than 20 giant God Realm upper echelons shattered. A few servants who were cleaning saw this scene and were so frightened that they fell to the ground. Quickly report this to the elder. The servants scrambled out of the room. Not long after, the elder of the Primordial Spirit Lamp Hall arrived. When he saw the shattered Primordial Spirit Lamps, his expression turned ugly. He personally went to see the island master, Morong Baiming. Outside the hall where Morong Baiming was cultivating, the elder of the Primordial Spirit Lamp Hall was stopped. I have an important matter to discuss with the island master. The elder of the Primordial Spirit Lamp Hall said in a deep voice, Please wait for a moment. We will go in and report. The guard commander said. The guard commander also knew the elder of the Primordial Spirit Lamp Hall. He knew that something big must have happened for the elder of the primordial spirit lamp hall to come in such a hurry. Therefore, he did not dare to delay. At this time, Morong Baiming's voice came from inside. "There is no need to report this matter. Just come in. Elder, please," the guard commander said. The elder of the primordial spirit lamp hall cupped his fists and pushed the door open. He entered the hall. The huge hall was empty. A middle-aged man was sitting cross-legged in the middle of the hall. That middle-aged man was like an ancient devil that had not moved since ancient times, although he did not deliberately emit a powerful aura fluctuation. However, it still gave people a feeling of fear and trepidation. The man who looked like an ancient devil was the island master of the Devil's Island, Morong Baiming. After seeing Morong Baiming, the elder of the primordial spirit lamp hall knelt on the ground and kowtowed. "Island master, something has happened to the young island master." Morong Baiming, who had his eyes closed, instantly opened his eyes when he heard that something had happened to Morong Wuhan. His eyes revealed two cold rays of light. "What happened?" Morong Baiming asked in a deep voice. The primordial spirit lamps of the young island master and more than 20 giant god experts have all shattered. The elder of the primordial spirit lamp hall said, "What?" Morong Baiming's eyes could not help but burst out with endless killing intent. The void in front of him was shattered by the killing intent bursting out from Morong Baiming's eyes. "Lightning Dragon Island," the Snake Empress said. "Master, young Master Wuhan, and so many giant god experts have been killed. In addition, the Devil's Island has lost millions of cultivators. The Devil's Island will definitely not let this matter rest. This servant guesses that the island master of the Devil's Island, Morong Baiming, will personally lead the cultivator army here." "What is Morong Baiming's cultivation?" Lin Feng asked. "It is said that he is a half-step emperor expert." The Snake Empress said, "Half-step emperor?" Lin Feng was very surprised. Morong Baiming was already so terrifying. How terrifying was the strength of the supremacy behind Morong Baiming? Just thinking about it made people shudder with fear. If we want to kill Morong Baiming, we need to make some preparations in advance. Lin Feng could not help but narrow his eyes. Naturally, what happened on the Lightning Dragon Island could not be kept a secret. Soon, as if it had grown wings, it spread throughout the Netherworld Sea. The cultivators in the various cultivators' gathering places were discussing this matter. Many people were waiting for the Devil's Island to respond. After all, ever since the Devil's Island was established, it had never suffered any losses. It had never suffered a loss. Even in the battle against the Netherworld Sea Divine Kingdom and the Mermaid Clan, the Devil's Island had always won. This time, the Devil's Island had suffered such a big loss. It was impossible for them to swallow this insult. Chapter 2281, Demon's Island. The army gathered. Morong Baiming planned to personally lead the army to attack Thunder Dragon Island. He vowed to destroy Thunder Dragon Island, then capture Lin Feng and cut him into pieces to avenge Morong Wuhan. At this moment, a cloud of black fog flew over from afar. A man stood vaguely in the black fog. "Your Honor." Seeing the man, Morong Baiming hurriedly knelt on the ground and saluted him. "Greetings, Your Honor." The 5 million cultivator army also saluted his honor. A mere Thunder Dragon Island can be destroyed with a flick of a finger. Is it worth it to make such a big fuss for such a small force? His honor looked at Morong Baiming. His honor looked directly at someone as powerful as Morong Baiming. Even Morong Baiming had a feeling of trepidation. His honor was his benefactor in the Forbidden God realm. Later, Morong Baiming became his honor's follower. A few years ago, Morong Baiming took his son and followed his honor to escape from the Forbidden God realm. Murong Baiming only had respect for his master. He didn't know his honor's cultivation level or origin. The only thing he knew was that his honor was too powerful. In the Forbidden God realm's ninth heaven, his honor was also in existence that no one dared to provoke. Now that he had returned to Jiuzhou, he was invincible. Not only that, no one was able to shake his honor's sharpness. In Murong Baiming's opinion, Lord Tortoise, the Red World Fairy, and other legendary existences, in front of his honor, they were as weak as ants. My honor, my son is dead, Murong Baiming said in a sorrowful voice. It doesn't matter. When I enter the netherworld, I have a way to resurrect your son. His honor said, Thank you, your honor. Thank you, your honor. Murong Baiming was overjoyed and quickly kowtowed to his honor. Murong Baiming didn't doubt his honor's words at all. In Murong Baiming's heart, his honor was an omnipotent existence, conquering the 9 prefectures. Let's start with conquering the Netherworld Sea. The Netherworld Sea Divine Kingdom and the Merfolk race have dealt with the Demon's Island several times. Now, it's time to destroy these 2 forces. As for the Lightning Dragon Island, after destroying the Netherworld Sea Divine Kingdom and the Merfolk race, you can deal with the Lightning Dragon Island however you want, said his honor. Yes, your honor. This subordinate will remember your honor's teachings, Murong Baiming said hurriedly. Swish! With a wave of his sleeve, his honor swept away the 5 million cultivator army. Such a huge army of cultivators flew above the sea in a grandiose manner. Wherever the cultivator army passed, the islands were plundered clean. Countless people were killed by the cultivator army. This news quickly spread throughout the Netherworld Sea. His Holiness has taken action personally. It seems that he wants to unify the Netherworld Sea. I wonder if the Dark Ocean Divine Kingdom and the Merfolk can stop you, my lord. Countless people were discussing this matter. Many people chose to side with the Island of Demons. As for the sea regions ruled by the Dark Ocean Divine Kingdom and the Merfolk, there were constantly cultivators fleeing. It was obvious that they did not want to participate in this war. Lin Feng also heard this news. Du Zhu said, This is honor's ambition is not small. Lin Feng nodded and said, This person is too terrifying. Now that he has taken action personally, I wonder if the Dark Ocean Divine Kingdom and the Merfolk can stop him. It would be best if they can defeat him. When that happens, the Dark Ocean Divine Kingdom and the Merfolk will definitely chase after him and the Island of Demons. It will save us a lot of trouble. Du Zhu said, It won't be that easy to deal with his honor. However, the Dark Ocean Divine Kingdom and the Merfolk definitely have a terrifying foundation. It's hard to say how this battle will turn out. Evil Dominator Saint said, We should still prepare for both sides. Lin Feng nodded and said, Yes, we do need to prepare for both sides. We also need to pay attention to the situation over there at all times. Facing his honor's aggressiveness, the Dark Ocean Divine Kingdom and the Merfolk joined forces to fight his honor. The cultivator armies of both sides fought fiercely, and the sea was dyed blood red. The Dark Ocean Divine Kingdom and the Merfolk both brought out their own foundation. The Dark Ocean Divine Kingdom had an ancient expert who sealed himself in a stone. His cultivation could be said to be heaven-defying. As for the Merfolk, they took out a broken ancient killing weapon. The ancient killing weapon was one of the 9 great ancient weapons. It was a terrifying weapon that surpassed Emperor weapons. Once it was activated, its power was boundless. Although the ancient killing weapon in the Merfolk's hands was broken, it was still unimaginably terrifying. Thus, the Dark Ocean Divine Kingdom and the Merfolk were full of confidence in this battle. However, no one expected that. Everyone had underestimated his honor's strength. His honor was too strong. He was so strong that even the ancient expert who sealed himself in the stone was not his match. His honor broke the other party's stone seal and heavily injured the ancient expert from the dark ocean divine kingdom. And the most shocking thing was that his honor actually had an ancient demonic weapon. It was one of the 9 great ancient weapons. The ancient demonic weapon in his honor's hands was actually intact. That was too terrifying. The power of an intact ancient demonic weapon was incomparable to the broken ancient killing weapon of the merfolk. In this battle, the merfolk cultivators died one after another, and the ancient killing weapon was taken by his honor. Apart from the ancient expert who sealed himself in the stone and escaped with serious injuries, the allied forces of the Dark Ocean Divine Kingdom and the merfolk died. The rest died in battle. The Dark Ocean had become a sea of blood, and there were corpses everywhere. Blood rained down like rain. After his honor attacked once, he did not attack again. It was as if he could not be bothered to continue attacking. Murong Baiming led the army to attack the Dark Ocean Divine Kingdom and the Merfolk Empire that had just been established for a few years. Countless people were killed. Only a few people from the Dark Ocean Divine Kingdom and the Merfolk escaped. The others had also died in this calamity. These were 2 colossal forces. They were destroyed in the blink of an eye. This matter quickly spread throughout the entire 9 regions. The 10 immortal sects, the upper echelons of many ancient sects, ancient sacred lands, and ancient families were also paying attention to this matter. The Dark Ocean Divine Kingdom and the Merfolk were both top powers, but they were destroyed so easily. Who exactly is that his honor? Wasn't he too terrifying? Even the strongest person in the 9 states, the Red World Fairy, was probably not his honor's match. His honor was very mysterious. He disappeared again, and the matters of the Dark Ocean were left to Murong Baiming to handle. Many major powers sent people to the Dark Ocean to gather information because they felt that something was amiss. Perhaps his honor's ambition was not as simple as unifying the Dark Ocean. The signs of the 5 decay of heaven, Grandpa Martin walked on the sea. He frowned slightly. This is not a place to stay for long. I better escape, Grandpa Martin muttered, and was about to leave quickly. At this moment, a man walked over from afar. That man was shrouded in black fog. Honor, his honor. Grandpa Martin's expression changed when he saw that man. He turned and fled. Chapter 2282. Grandpa Martin, why are you in such a hurry? His honor chased after Grandpa Martin step by step. His honor's speed was simply too fast. Grandpa Martin ran frantically, but was unable to shake his honor off. Being targeted by his honor, Grandpa Martin felt like crying. Grandpa Martin shouted, "His honor, there is no enmity between us. Please don't chase after me." There aren't many people from that era who are still alive. You are one of them. When old friends meet, shouldn't we have a good chat? Yet, you left so decisively. This is simply too heartbreaking. His honor said, "Go to hell, old friend." Grandpa Martin, are you close to me? Grandpa Martin thought fiercely. However, he did not dare to say these words in front of his honor. Grandpa Martin said, "I have an urgent matter, so I left in a hurry. How about we meet another day? At that time, I will treat you to immortal tea." His honor said, "What could be more important than meeting an old friend? Tell me, let me hear it." Grandpa Martin felt bitter in his heart. What he said just now was just an excuse that he came up with. Grandpa Martin said, "What I am going to do is extremely important, but it is not convenient for me to reveal it. Thus, I am unable to tell you about it." His honor's expression became cold and indifferent. "Grandpa Martin, it seems that you don't treat me as a friend. Since that is the case, there is no need for me to treat you as a friend. After saying that, his honor increased his speed. Grandpa Martin saw that his honor was chasing after him, and he was almost scared out of his wits. Grandpa Martin increased his speed to the limit, but he was still unable to shake his honor off. Grandpa Martin was not good at fighting. What he was best at was divination and deduction, as well as all kinds of other arts. Very quickly, his honor caught up to Grandpa Martin, then sent a palm towards Grandpa Martin. His honor, can you not be impulsive? Impulsiveness is the devil. Grandpa Martin shouted. Bang! Along with the fierce attack, Grandpa Martin was sent flying by his honor. A line of blood was left behind in the air. Grandpa Martin's body was sent flying, and his face was deathly pale. He stood in the air with difficulty, and looking at his appearance, he was on the verge of collapse. His honor said with a smile, Grandpa Martin, so many years have passed. Why is your cultivation still so weak? What exactly have you been doing all these years? Even if a pig were to live to your age, its cultivation level would be much higher than yours, right? Grandpa Martin grinned and said, Grandpa Martin is not interested in cultivation. If Grandpa Martin were to cultivate properly, you would be the one vomiting blood from Grandpa Martin's palm today. Grandpa Martin coughed up blood as he spoke. It was obvious that his injuries were not light. His honor smiled and said, Is that so? Your stubborn personality hasn't changed in the slightest after so many years. Let me ask you something. If you answer me honestly, I might let you live. Grandpa Martin said, Feel free to ask. As long as you don't kill me, I'll tell you everything. Those who suppressed me back then, where are they now? Asked his honor. They went to the undying world long ago. By now, they have probably become big shots of the undying world, right? Grandpa Martin said, Undying world. Very good, very good. Wait until I get to the undying world. I'm going to cut them into 1,000 pieces. Dense killing intent appeared on his honor's face. Can I leave now? Grandpa Martin asked. The corner of his honor's mouth curled up into a cold smile and said, Grandpa Martin, when you perform fortune-telling for others, have you ever divined what your own fate would be like? Grandpa Martin said, I've divined for myself, but my divinations aren't very accurate. Is that so? That's truly a pity. If you had divined for yourself, you might have been able to avoid this calamity. His honor laughed lightly and lightly waved his right hand. Swoosh! A dazzling sword aura swept out. Pooh! That sword aura directly pierced through Grandpa Martin's chest. Grandpa Martin looked at his chest that was pierced through by the sword aura. He stretched out his hand, wanting to cover the wound that was continuously bleeding. However, no matter how hard he tried, he was unable to stop the blood from flowing out. This sword of mine has destroyed all of your life force. You can go on your way with peace of mind. His honor said indifferently. Grandpa Martin said, You didn't keep your word. You said that you would let me go. His honor said indifferently, I only said that I would consider letting you go, but I didn't say that I would definitely let you go. Just now, I had thought it through, and that is, I have decided to take your life. How ironic. Grandpa Martin, had just divined that a brat would have a bloody calamity. That brat hasn't even gotten into trouble yet, but Grandpa Martin, have already died. Grandpa Martin cried out miserably as his body fell into the sea and was instantly swallowed by the rolling waves. Grandpa Martin, have a safe journey. His honor's mouth curled up into a sinister smile, following which he stepped into the distance and disappeared without a trace in the blink of an eye. After the fall of the Netherworld Sea's divine nation and the Merfolk Empire, the majority of the sea region had been occupied by the demonic islands. Now, only the last piece of land was left, and that was the Lightning Dragon Island. Originally, Lin Feng had planned to let the snake queen continue to take root in the Netherworld Sea's divine nation, but now he had changed his mind. Previously, when the divine nation of the Netherworld Sea and the Merfolk Empire were still around, there were two great powers that were restraining his honor and the demonic islands. But now, these two great powers had been destroyed. There was no one else that could restrain his honor and the demonic islands. Continuing to stay here was truly not a wise move. Therefore, Lin Feng wanted to move the cultivator army of the Lightning Dragon Island away. He had set up a space-time shift formation on the Lightning Dragon Island, which could directly shift a long distance to the northern ice field. But what Lin Feng didn't expect was that the space-time shift formation had just been set up. The cultivator army of the demonic islands had already heavily surrounded the Lightning Dragon Island. 5 million cultivator army arrived on the ancient warships. Now, the Lightning Dragon Island was completely surrounded. The defensive restriction of the Lightning Dragon Island was activated. Lin Feng didn't plan to fight. Prepare to move. When we arrive at the northern ice field, rest and reorganize. Observe the situation in the Netherworld Sea. If there are any changes in the Netherworld Sea's divine nation, the army will come back and fight for the territory. Lin Feng said. The changes he was talking about were the 10 great immortal sects, those ancient sacred grounds, ancient families, and other forces that might make a move against his honor. After all, his honor's threat was too great. Those top forces would most likely not let his honor continue to grow. Otherwise, once his honor became a great threat, at that time, it would be impossible to deal with his honor. Lin Feng was also waiting for those top forces to make a move against his honor. As long as his honor was killed, the 1.5 million cultivator army of the Lightning Dragon Island would immediately come back. By then, the authority of the Netherworld Sea would be in Lin Feng's hands. Let's go. Follow me to kill Murong Baiming. Lin Feng looked at Duzu and the heretic sovereign saint. He had decided to kill Murong Baiming before leaving. It could be considered as a greeting gift to his honor. Chapter 2283. Lin Feng had set up an extremely powerful formation to deal with Murong Baiming. As for his honor, Lin Feng expected that this person would not casually make a move. His honor was too arrogant. Even when dealing with the two top forces, the Nether Ocean Divine Kingdom and the Mermaid Empire. After defeating the experts in the Nether Ocean Divine Kingdom and snatching the ancient killing weapon of the mermaid race, his honor did not make a move again. From this, it could be seen. His honor disdained to make a move on those forces, and Thunder Dragon Island paled in comparison to the Nether Ocean Divine Kingdom and the Mermaid Empire. Therefore, it was even more impossible for his honor to deal with Thunder Dragon Island. The person who dealt with Thunder Dragon Island must be Murong Baiming. Although Murong Baiming was powerful, it was not impossible to deal with him. Lin Feng, Du Su, the evil dominator saint, and the quasi-emperor puppet, in addition to the formation set up by Lin Feng. In addition, Lin Feng had the 9 demons painting, the Wolverine mace, the 5 dragon wheel, and other top-grade treasures. With so many experts working together with the formation and so many top-grade treasures, how could he not kill Murong Baiming alone? Lin Feng had a high chance of killing Murong Baiming. Ha! I can't wait to make a move. Duzu could not help but laugh. Kill Murong Baiming and snatch his wealth. As the island master of Demon's Island, this guy must be filthy rich. Duzu's eyes were glowing with green light. Master, you must be careful. The Snake Queen reminded. Don't worry. You just need to preside over everyone's transfer here. Lin Feng said, whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Then Lin Feng, Duzu, and the evil dominator saint flew out. Lord Island Master, 3 people flew out from Thunder Dragon Island. Seeing Lin Feng, Du Zhu, and the evil Dominator Saint flying out of the Lightning Dragon Island, someone immediately went to report to Murong Baiming. Murong Baiming walked out of the cabin and saw Lin Feng, Du Zhu, and the heretic Dominator Saint standing in the void. He sneered and said, "What? Is it just the three of you who came out to die?" Lin Feng smiled faintly and said, "Murong Baiming, it seems that you still don't know me. I was the one who killed Murong Wuhan." "What? Did you kill Wuhan?" After hearing Lin Feng's words, Murong Baiming's eyes suddenly burst out with killing intent. If looks could kill, Lin Feng would have been cut into 1,000 pieces by Murong Baiming's glare. "Come out, Murong Baiming. Let's fight. Life or death, victory or defeat." Lin Feng said indifferently, "Brat, since you want to die, this island master will fulfill your wish." Murong Baiming's eyes were filled with coldness. "Island master, you can't do that. This brat is cunning. We have to guard against him. Our army of 5 million cultivators has already surrounded the Lightning Dragon Island. Island master only needs to give the order, and everyone on the Lightning Dragon Island will be annihilated. That brat won't be an exception. There's no need for Island Master to act personally. That's right, Island Master. We only need to give the order, and the army of 5 million cultivators will immediately attack the Lightning Dragon Island. That brat will only die then." Many higher-ups of the demonic island tried to dissuade Murong Baiming. Murong Baiming's face suddenly sank and said, "Wuhan was killed by this brat. How can I not avenge my son's death?" "The army will annihilate him to avenge young Island Master," said one of the higher-ups. Murong Baiming's face sank and said, "This Island Master will personally cut that brat into 1,000 pieces. Only then will I be able to vent the hatred in my heart." Murong Baiming then looked coldly at the higher-ups of the demonic island who were trying to dissuade him from taking action. He said coldly, "This island master has been a half-step emperor for 720,000 years. Do you think that I'm not a match for that brat?" After feeling Murong Baiming's cold gaze, everyone felt a sudden chill in their hearts. They hurriedly said in unison, "Of course we don't dare to have such thoughts. We're just worried that the boy is playing some tricks on you, Island Master." "Humph, before absolute strength, any tricks are useless." Murong Baiming sneered. He then continued, "This Island Master will personally kill that brat. You all will attack the island with all your strength. Kill everyone on the Lightning Dragon Island. Leave no one alive." "Understood." The higher-ups of the demonic island quickly replied. Murong Baiming stepped forward and walked towards Lin Feng. "Brat, have you thought about how you're going to die?" Murong Baiming sneered as he looked at Lin Feng. TSK, since I can kill Murong Wuhan, I can also kill you. Soon, you will go to hell to meet Murong Wuhan." Lin Feng sneered. Murong Baiming said indifferently, "Brat, do you really think that Wuhan is dead? Let me tell you, his honor has promised this island master that he will revive Wuhan in the netherworld." Lin Feng, Du Zhu, and the demonic holiness saint looked at each other. This guy couldn't be telling the truth, right? The dead can be revived. If his honor has such an ability, wouldn't it be too terrifying? What is his honor's cultivation level? Murong Baiming sneered and said, "Wuhan will be revived soon. As for you, you will fall into the 18 layers of hell and never be reincarnated." Asterisk Kong. Asterisk, a terrifying wave of energy was emitted from Murong Baiming's body. The wave was so powerful that it was suffocating. So strong. This person is extremely powerful even among half-step emperors. Du Zhu's expression turned solemn. Lin Feng nodded. Murong Baiming's strength was indeed too strong. However, this was also within Lin Feng's expectations. When he decided to deal with Murong Baiming, Lin Feng had already anticipated all kinds of possible consequences. The current situation was also within Lin Feng's expectations. When Murong Baiming rushed towards Lin Feng activated the space-time teleportation array outside the Lightning Dragon Island. The array enveloped Lin Feng, Du Zhu, the demonic holiness saint, and Murong Baiming. Asterisk swish. Asterisk in the next moment, the four disappeared without a trace. Island Master has been teleported away. Should we go look for Island Master? Seeing Murong Baiming being teleported away, one of the higher-ups of the Devil Isle frowned and said, "The Island Master's strength is unfathomable. It won't be a problem for him to deal with those people. Moreover, the Island Master has already instructed us to attack the Lightning Dragon Island with all our strength. Let's attack the Lightning Dragon Island here and try our best to take down the Lightning Dragon Island before the Island Master returns." Another higher-up said, "All right, let's attack the Lightning Dragon Island." The rest of the higher-ups nodded. Asterisk woo woo woo. Asterisk soon. The bugle horn for the attack sounded. Numerous ancient warships shot out a dense number of spiritual stone cannons toward the restriction of the Lightning Dragon Island. Chapter 2284. Whoosh! With a flash of light, Lin Feng and the other three came to another sea area. This place was located 30 miles northwest of Thunder Dragon Island. As far as the eye could see, one could see numerous small islands densely distributed in the surroundings. Lin Feng set up a large formation here. This place looked ordinary, but in fact, it contained a mystery. The islands that were densely distributed like stars in the sky reflected the stardust in the sky, and they were able to attract the power of the stars. Lin Feng relied on this natural terrain to create the large formation here. He set up a total of 3 formations here. The first formation was called the Million Stars Slaughtering Gods Destroying Immortals Formation, which was a top formation passed down from the Celestial Master Sect. The terrain of this place, it just so happened that it complemented Lin Feng's great deployment spell perfectly. In addition, Lin Feng also set up the Immortal Slaying Formation. These 2 formations were the main formations, one yin and one yang, and yin and yang were combined. It was mysterious and unpredictable. In addition to these 2 main formations, Lin Feng also set up a dozen auxiliary formations. For example, some maze formations, illusion formations, killing formations, and so on. These formations were powerful enough, and Lin Feng had many powerful magic treasures. Moreover, Lin Feng and the others were also very powerful. This was why Lin Feng was confident that he could kill Murong Baiming. Murong Baiming looked around coldly. Although he didn't see anything mysterious, his instincts made him frown slightly. "Brat, do you think that by moving me to this place and playing some tricks, you'll be able to deal with me? It's just wishful thinking. Now, I'm going to kill you." Murong Baiming's voice was indifferent. He walked toward Lin Feng step by step, and a 9-colored energy ball appeared in his palm. That ball of energy was truly terrifying. It actually caused the surrounding space to distort. Moreover, it emitted a powerful wave of energy that could destroy the heavens and the earth. Murong Baiming began to condense his magical power to deal with Lin Feng. Lin Feng activated the large formation. Buzz. When the array was activated, white mist began to envelop the area. Murong Baiming's expression suddenly darkened. He was experienced and knowledgeable, so he knew that Lin Feng was setting up a big array to deal with him. Therefore, Murong Baiming hurriedly condensed an energy ball in his hand and blasted it towards Lin Feng. However, when the energy ball blasted towards Lin Feng, Du Zhu and the evil Dominator Saint, the 3 of them had already disappeared. Murong Baiming's attack missed and failed to cause any harm to Lin Feng, Du Zhu, or the evil Dominator Saint. Murong Baiming, you think too highly of yourself. Today is the day you die, Lin Feng said indifferently. Murong Baiming said coldly, Boy, do you think you can kill me by arranging a large array? That's simply a fool's dream. In the face of absolute strength, no matter what kind of conspiracy, it will collapse at the first blow. Lin Feng sneered and said, Murong Baiming, you think too highly of yourself. How dare you call the large array a conspiracy? Have you heard of the saying, don't enter the array? If you've heard of it, then you should know that you're trapped in the formation today. There's an 80% chance that your soul will die. Boom, boom, boom. As soon as Lin Feng's voice fell, the large array was completely activated. Streaks of divine light shot out from the islands that were as dense as the stars in the sky. Buzz. At the same time, the wind and clouds in the ninth heaven suddenly changed. The sky was originally clear. In the blink of an eye, night fell. In the endless darkness, stars appeared one after another. Those stars shone down beams of starlight. The islands in the sea and the stars in the starry sky reflected each other's brilliance. The streaks of starlight actually transformed into chains of order. Clatter. These chains of order were intertwined with the power of stars, and they made sounds of chains colliding with each other. The chains of order swept toward Murong Baiming. At the same time, the immortal execution array and more than a dozen different arrays were activated. The immortal execution array condensed billions of sword chi. They slashed toward Murong Baiming. The other killing arrays also condensed various powerful attacks, such as the Thousand Beasts array, condensing a dense herd of beasts. It was as if the evil flood dragon formation had formed an incomparably terrifying evil flood dragon. Wait, wait, wait. All kinds of large arrays were unimaginably powerful. Lin Feng also summoned the pseudo-emperor puppet at this time. After all, the pseudo-emperor puppet was just a puppet and not a real pseudo-emperor. Therefore, the cultivation of a pseudo-emperor puppet was lower than that of a real pseudo-emperor. However, the pseudo-emperor puppet, refined by Lin Feng, was a little different, because this pseudo-emperor puppet was refined from the corpse of a demonic insect from another world, and this demonic insect was highly toxic. Therefore, the threat of the pseudo-emperor puppet containing highly toxic poison was no less than that of a real pseudo-emperor. Lin Feng didn't use the pseudo-emperor puppet before because he didn't want to expose his pseudo-emperor puppet. The pseudo-emperor puppet was one of his trump cards now. Now, in order to kill Murong Baiming, Lin Feng used all his means and summoned the pseudo-emperor puppet. In addition to the pseudo-emperor puppet, Lin Feng also summoned the 9 demons diagram and the 5 dragons wheel. These 2 magic treasures suppressed the core of the immortal execution array and the 1,000 stars god slaughtering immortal extinguishing array, respectively. They increased the power of the 2 large arrays. Lin Feng held the wolf-tooth mace, Du Zhu held the myriad poisons blade, and the evil dominator saint held the death scythe. Together with the pseudo-emperor puppet, they began to besiege Murong Baiming. No matter how powerful Murong Baiming was, he was only one person. Lin Feng's various attacks were endless. As time went by, Murong Baiming's consumption continued to increase. Murong Baiming also encountered some trouble. Under the various attacks, Murong Baiming gradually revealed his fatigue and flaws. Lin Feng seized one of Murong Baiming's flaws and directly smashed the wolf-tooth mace toward Murong Baiming. Bang! A muffled sound of collision was heard. The wolf-tooth mace hit Murong Baiming hard. It directly sent Murong Baiming flying. Wah! After suffering such a heavy blow, Murong Baiming couldn't help spitting out a mouthful of blood. At the same time, the 1,000 stars god slaughtering immortal extinguishing array continued to show its power, summoning meteorites from outer space and smashing toward Murong Baiming. Break. Murong Baiming waved his fist and swept it towards the dense meteorites. Countless meteorites from outer space were directly shattered. But at this moment, the pseudo-emperor puppet silently lurked behind Morong Baiming and swept its sharp claws toward Morong Baiming. Morong Baiming's reaction was extremely fast. He quickly dodged the attack of the pseudo-emperor puppet. But Morong Baiming couldn't avoid it. Puff! The pseudo-emperor puppet left a deep wound on Morong Baiming's back, so deep that his bones could be seen. Chapter 2285. Morong Baiming could not help but let out a shrill scream as his wound quickly festered. The poison contained in the half-step emperor puppet was extremely terrifying. Morong Baiming was also made of flesh and blood. Since he was made of flesh and blood, it was natural for him to be poisoned. However, Morong Baiming did not have a heaven and earth spirit beast like the white jade toad that could detoxify poison. Therefore, the poison of the half-step emperor puppet poured into Morong Baiming's body in a very short time. Morong Baiming felt his spiritual power become sluggish, and his body could not help but twitch. Bang! He slapped the quasi-emperor puppet with his palm and sent it flying. Ha 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 ha, Morong Baiming, it seems that you have been poisoned deeply. Now you can't escape, even if you have wings. Lin Feng could not help but laugh. Little bastard, it's not that easy to kill me. Today I've been tricked by you. I'll tolerate you for the time being. When I recover from my injuries, I'll skin you alive. Morong Baiming's resentful voice came out. Now he also knew that his situation was very bad, so he no longer had the intention to continue fighting with Lin Feng. He just wanted to escape as soon as possible. As long as there was life, there was hope. Morong Baiming naturally understood this truth. Whoosh! Morong Baiming quickly rushed out of the large formation. His body turned into a dazzling sword light. Whether it was the chains of order, the formation patterns intertwined by various large formations, or the attacks released, anything that touched the sword chi of Morong Baiming was directly torn apart. Damn, this guy's ability is so terrifying. Duzu suddenly shouted. He is now holding a breath in his chest. As long as we can break this breath in his chest, Morong Baiming's vitality will inevitably be greatly damaged. Evil Dominator Saint said. Swish! At this time, Lin Feng waved his right hand. The primitive magic cauldron flew out. The primitive magic cauldron was a treasure that was not inferior to the 4 ferocious cauldron. Lin Feng said, activate the primitive magic cauldron with me. Let's forcibly break this person's state. All right. Duzu and the evil dominator wholly nodded and followed Lin Feng into the cauldron. Buzz. Immediately after, the primordial magic cauldron was activated. The original demonic cauldron rose into the sky and quickly rushed toward the sword chi that Morong Baiming had transformed into. Soon, it reached Morong Baiming. Then, it fiercely collided with Morong Baiming's sword chi. Clang! The two sides collided. It sounded like a huge bell being struck. It was deafening. Morong Baiming's sword chi was invincible. However, the primordial magic cauldron was simply too sturdy. Although Morong Baiming's sword chi had cut through the chains of order and destroyed all kinds of formation runes, it was still not enough. However, they failed to destroy the primordial magic cauldron. The defensive power of the primordial magic cauldron was simply too astonishing. After being blocked by the primordial magic cauldron, Morong Baiming's sword chi also returned to its original form. After his transformation was interrupted, Morong Baiming's accumulated anger was also interrupted. He couldn't help but spit out a mouthful of blood. His face had already turned black, which was a sign that he was deeply poisoned. Lin Feng, Duzu, and the evil dominator wholly flew out of the primordial magic cauldron. Duzu cried out, "Son of a bitch, weren't you very awesome just now? It seems that you can't be awesome now. It's really like a dragon being played by a shrimp when he's in shallow waters and a tiger being bullied by a dog when he's down. I didn't expect that I would end up like this today. Murong Baiming's face was extremely ugly. His eyes flashed with murderous intent. Lin Feng, Du Zhu, and the evil dominator wholly scolded at the same time. You're the shrimp. You're the dog. Your whole family is shrimp. Your whole family is dogs. We haven't reached the point of life and death between us. How about we each take a step back? This is a good thing for both of us. Murong Baiming suddenly changed his tone and said aloud, I have the chance to kill you. Why should we each take a step back? Lin Feng sneered. What's more, leaving you alive is really a big problem. If that's the case, even if I die today, I'll drag someone down with me. Murong Baiming roared, and his body began to burn. Ignite my demonic body and fight to the death. Murong Baiming roared. His body continued to burn. Murong Baiming's aura became stronger and more terrifying. He quickly pounced on Lin Feng. Obviously, he wanted to drag Lin Feng down with him. Murong Baiming, give up. You're now a trapped beast. You can't change anything at all. Lin Feng looked indifferent. He waved his hand, and the formation lines intertwined. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Light flickered. He, Du Zhu, and the evil dominator wholly disappeared without a trace. The pseudo-emperor puppet pounced on Murong Baiming. Lin Feng, Du Zhu, and the evil dominator wholly did not fight Murong Baiming in close combat. The three of them activated the formation and magic treasures to attack Murong Baiming. Murong Baiming was fighting back before his death. At this time, they should be more careful. Boom, 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 boom. The two sides fought fiercely for hundreds of rounds. Puff! The pseudo-emperor puppet seized the opportunity and pierced Murong Baiming's chest with its sharp claws. Ah! Murong Baiming roared in pain and slapped the pseudo-emperor puppet with his palm. The pseudo-emperor puppet quickly retreated and dodged Murong Baiming's attack. Murong Baiming looked at the wound that kept bleeding. He could not help but roar hysterically. How can this be? I can't believe I'm going to die in the hands of ants like you. I can't accept this. Lin Feng said coldly, you can only blame yourself for being too arrogant. Your cultivation is strong, but you're not invincible. Brat, I want you dead. Murong Baiming's face twisted, and his body began to swell. At the same time, his body was emitting waves of destructive energy waves. Murong Baiming is going to self-detonate. Lin Feng's expression changed slightly. The destruction caused by the self-detonation of a pseudo-emperor was unimaginable. He, Du Zhu, and the evil dominator wholly entered the primitive magic cauldron again. Lin Feng also put the pseudo-emperor puppet, the 9-demon diagram, and the 5-dragon wheel into the primitive magic cauldron. Boom! In the next moment, Murong Baiming's body exploded. Destructive shock waves swept out, surging between heaven and earth. The terrifying energy hit the primitive magic cauldron. Although the cauldron was protecting them, Lin Feng and the others were still shaken by the shock waves and vomited blood. Fortunately, they managed to survive. The three of them flew out of the primitive magic cauldron and were about to leave. They saw the void crack. A cloud of black mist flew out. Chapter 2286. Not good, it's his honor. Let's split up. When he saw that strong cultivator, Lin Feng's expression changed drastically. He'd seen his honor with Du Zhu and the heretical holiness before. He knew how terrifying this person was. Now that Murong Baiming had been killed, his honor actually appeared here. This was troublesome. His honor's cultivation was too strong. He was so strong that it made people despair. So when he saw his honor, Lin Feng's first thought was to run. and he had to split up with Duzu and the heretical holiness. That would distract his honor. If they ran together, his honor would catch them all in one fell swoop. Whoosh! With a flash of light, Lin Feng, Duzu, and the heretical holiness each took out a void Dao platform. These void Dao platforms were personally made by Lin Feng. He used precious void Dao stones as the material and branded them with a void Dao formation. It could teleport people 300 miles away. It was very precious. Lin Feng gave these void Dao platforms to people close to him. They could save their lives at a critical moment. Lin Feng, Duzu, and the heretical holiness all activated their void Dao platforms. They quickly flew in 3 different directions. In the blink of an eye, they disappeared without a trace. Void Dao platforms. Humph! You can't escape. His honor's eyes were cold. He spat out 2 breaths. Those breaths turned into 2 clones and chased after Duzu and the heretical holiness. The venerable one chased after Lin Feng to kill him. He wanted to kill Lin Feng personally. His honor actually came. How unlucky! Lin Feng couldn't help but wail gloomily. Lin Feng didn't know how strong his honor was, but he knew that even someone as strong as Morong Baiming was only his honor's subordinate. Not long ago, his honor had defeated an expert from Dark Ocean Divine Nation. I really don't know what kind of terrifying level his honor's cultivation has reached in order to be able to defeat an expert from the stone materials. Moreover, Lin Feng had heard that his honor still had a complete ancient demon artifact on him. The Merman Empire's ancient killing artifact had also been plundered by his honor. One was an ancient devil artifact, and the other was an ancient killing artifact. This guy was too terrifying. If I don't run away when I encounter his honor, I would be courting death. Swish! With a flash of light, Lin Feng rushed out of the void. Crack! Crack! The void Dao platform in his hand cracked open. This void Dao platform could only be used once. After using it, it would be destroyed immediately. The void Dao platform in Lin Feng's hands was no exception. After using it, it was destroyed. He did not stop and quickly flew in the direction of the Arctic tundra. However, not long after, a cloud of black fog flew out of the void. Within the black fog stood a man. This man was none other than his honor. F***CK. Isn't that too fast? When Lin Feng saw that his honor was chasing after him, Lin Feng's face turned green. His honor's speed was truly too fast. After all, Lin Feng had used the void Dao platform to teleport. In just a few seconds, he had crossed 100 miles. His honor had relied on his own speed to quickly travel over. Lin Feng looked at his honor somewhat incoherently. He hurriedly took out a second void Dao platform. Swish! Lin Feng activated the second void Dao platform, then disappeared without a trace. Lolian, do you think you can escape just by using the void Dao platform? His honor's lips curved into a sinister smile. He disappeared once again. 100 miles away, Lin Feng appeared. However, as soon as he appeared in the void, his honor was already chasing after him. It's useless. It's utterly impossible for an ant like you to escape from my hands. His honor's expression was indifferent. Lin Feng said with a pale face, "For an expert like you to deal with a junior cultivator like me, don't you think you're losing face? When I attack, I do as I please. Why would I care about anything else?" His honor laughed coldly. Lin Feng's expression became even more unsightly. A thought flashed through his mind, and he said, "My honor, I heard that you came out from the seal on Lightning Dragon Island. Did you know that I was the one who opened the seal on Lightning Dragon Island back then? For you to be able to escape, you should thank me. In the unseen world, you and I have some fate." "So, You want me to let you go? His Honor looked at Lin Feng mockingly. Hee hee, that's right. Can you let me go? Lin Feng grinned and asked, How about I send you to a good place? His Honor laughed mischievously. Where? Lin Feng asked. The 18 levels of hell. His Honor's mouth revealed a trace of cold killing intent, and he sent a palm towards Lin Feng. Whoosh! Lin Feng took out his Dao platform and dodged his Honor's attack by a hair's breadth. Once again, he teleported 300 li away. However, he was still unable to escape from his Honor. His Honor chased after him once again. Lin Feng had a total of 8 Dao platforms on him. He activated all 8 Dao platforms. However, he was still unable to escape from his Honor. This time, Lin Feng did not even have any Dao platforms left. Although his speed was very fast, his Honor was even faster. The current situation was truly despairing. Lin Feng could not think of any way to fight against his Honor. His Honor sent a palm towards Lin Feng. When Lin Feng sensed that terrifying punch, his face turned pale with fright. He wanted to dodge, but he discovered that he was unable to dodge that terrifying palm. Heaven-mending technique. At the moment of crisis, Lin Feng used heaven-mending technique and dodged that sure-kill attack. He escaped by a hair's breadth. Heaven-mending technique. This divine ability is rather interesting. His Honor looked towards Lin Feng in astonishment. However, soon after, he sneered. However, you can only use this heaven-mending technique once. Lin Feng smiled bitterly. It was indeed like what his Honor said. He could only use heaven-mending technique once. Lin Feng took out his 5-dragon wheel. He wanted to activate his 5-dragon wheel and fight his Honor to the death. Broken immortal equipment. There are quite a few good things. His Honor's expression was indifferent as he looked towards Lin Feng. Bang! Lin Feng was immediately sent flying, and his 5-dragon wheel flew out of his hand. Facing such a terrifying existence like his Honor, Lin Feng did not even have the chance to activate his 5-dragon wheel. This was because his Honor was simply too terrifying. Do you know what it means to live a life worse than death? His Honor's mouth curled up into a sinister smile. He flicked his finger. Sword Qi moved towards Lin Feng at full speed. Puff! Along with the sound of tearing, a series of tearing sounds could be heard. Numerous wounds could be seen on Lin Feng's body. His entire body was dripping with blood. Death by 1,000 cuts. Nothing could be compared to this. Grandson, kill me if you have the guts. Lin Feng clenched his teeth and looked towards his Honor. You want to die? I can fulfill your wish. His Honor laughed sinisterly, then raised his right hand and was about to send a palm towards Lin Feng. Cough, cough, cough. Right at this moment, a coughing sound could be heard from afar.